appropriate.
Tim, did you make that?
Did you make that motion?
Will I make it? Yeah.
Did.
I'll move at this point that we remove Mr. Manzioni as member of the board and have him take the position.
If we could get quiet in the room, I apologize. If you guys could move out, you're gonna have discussion. Thank you.
And have him
Sorry, Tim.
assume the role of alternate for the evening.
I'll second that motion gladly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're back to 5. Again, we're hearing KC 25-14. This is a request for several variances, which I guess we'll address for one at a time. This is a variance is requested for Article 400, Section 412A. We're creating a new non-conforming lot that is less than the required 30,000 square feet. Before we go to that, going to that, give us a few moments to review the application and we'll get back to you. Get a motion to accept it for discussion.
Thank you.
You know what to do when you.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a proposal that we accept or the proposal in front of us, okay, for Z 2514 is complete.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's move forward with the case. Paul?
Name's Paul Zusko. I'm here representing Bruce Capania. He bought map lot 40 or tax map 49 lot 32, which is on the water. He wants to do a lot line adjustment with the lot behind it. So we're taking a lot that's 11,500 square feet and making it 20,150 square feet. So we're making a small lot bigger. So in doing so, we have to go through all these variances. It's still not a conforming lot because it doesn't meet minimum lot size. It doesn't meet the shoreline because the existing shoreline's only 53 feet. You can't make it the 100 feet it requires. It requires road frontage. This lot has no road frontage. It has an existing right of way from Route 11 to it. Also, the building, we can't meet the minimum buildable area of 22,000 square feet because we're only going to be upping it to 20,000. And the equitable waiver we're asking for is the current house sits within the 50-foot shoreline setback, but it's been there since 1938. Eventually, that house probably will be torn down and the new house will be moved back to meet all setbacks. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Mr. Chairman, Scott, do you have a larger plat that shows setbacks and things? I can't read them on the one that I've got.
Oh, setbacks are the red line. Building setbacks are the red lines on there.
Setbacks are 10 feet.
And what about the setback from the lake? Is that marked on here anywhere?
That one is not, but
The setback from presently the setback at the closest point is 35 feet. It's supposed to be, right now it's required to be 30 feet, but it's presently 35 feet. In this.
I think they upped the shoreline setback to 50, I believe.
Yes, the current.
So the shoreline setback goes somewhere through the middle,
Into the house.
through the middle of the building?
Eventually, not this year, next year. And we'll have to move it further back. Then we'll have to go through shoreland, which will require all your erosion control and drainage and all that stuff.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Please.
So you're dealing with two lots. Are both of them non-conforming presently?
No, the other lot is conforming.
And when you do this boundary line adjustment that you're proposing, will it render the currently conforming lot to be non-conforming, or will it?
Conforming.
It'll still be conforming.
Correct.
So the real lot that's going to have the major impact on what you're proposing is the current non-conforming lot, which violates the setback from the lake, as well as the other setbacks. that-
Minimum lot size.
Minimum lot size,
Buildable area.
frontage,
Frontage.
road frontage.
Yep.
But it's in violation of all those right now.
Correct.
And the house was built in 1938, so all this has existed prior to zoning.
Correct.
And your proposal will take it from 11,000 square feet and turn it into 20,000 square
Correct.
feet. Okay. And I think there was a question on a department.
Right away,
I'm sorry?
the question on the right of way. Is that?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Oh,
The
but-
question I had that I noticed was from the Conservation Commission, I think it was, that asked that there would be a capability of making the non-conforming lot conform. So what's the minimum requirement? 30,000?
30,000.
30,000 square feet. And I think the Conservation Committee asked the question, why can't you make the non-conforming lot 30,000 square feet? In other words, adjust the boundary line such to pick that up. And then I think the result of that would be you'd end up with two conforming lots.
Well, because I'm purchasing additional land by the people who used to own the place that I bought. And I only can purchase so much land. They're not willing, if I go up any higher, their lot will be
I see.
non-conforming, and we're right at the limit of keeping their lot conforming without mine.
I see.
It
So,
would be, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. So you would run the risk of creating a non-conforming lot with the one that you would
Right.
use to make yours conforming. But, and also it's not, you don't own both these lots.
I do not.
Okay.
The current owners used to own the house that I bought, and they are here today. They
Right.
offered me this additional land to try to make my lot as close
bigger.
to
Right.
conforming as we
Make it better.
possibly
Right.
could. Yep.
And because you're creating, if this boundary line were to be permitted, you'd be creating two brand new lots at that point, because they'd be new lots, they'd have different boundary lines. And therefore, you require all these variances from the lake and the setbacks and everything that otherwise you wouldn't require, except that you're creating a new lot, but you're making it less non-conforming.
Correct.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? So I'm just a little confused. Why would you want to go through this?
For-
Just to gain some additional land?
Because what that does is it gives me, it goes from, like I said, 11,000 square feet to 22,000, which then, in fact, if I do decide to tear the house down, I have more area to work with.
Right.
Without
Further back
disturbing
from the
anybody, and I
lake.
can move the house back
And
away
then you
from
could
the
move
lake.
it further back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, down the road.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
I get,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Because
So that is your intent?
Yeah,
is
I
that
think
Your
you're-
intent will be to tear the house down
I'm-
and move back and make everything conforming?
Is, yes, have to get special exception of variance as close as we can get conforming, yes. But we have a better shot at the
Because
22,000.
it's still gonna be non-conforming, but
The lot will be,
the lot will still be non-conforming, but
But less non-conforming.
less, but
Non-conforming.
less non-conforming.
it's a weird straight, yeah.
Right.
More conforming or less non-conforming, yes.
The reason I ask that is I'm Italian and sometimes I'm a little stupid, you know, in trying to figure out what would be the reason to do all this. So, and I also wanted to maybe put it on the record, you know, of what you're trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
And for the record, my last name is Campagna and I am Italian as well.
You were gonna address the right of way.
Oh, there has been since the fifties, a walk-through only right away. It goes up behind my garage. If you look at the map, it shows the property is on a cul-de-sac. It's a private road. That's why it literally doesn't have any road frontage. It's on a private road. And presently, I own 3/4 of the way across the cul-de-sac. There's a very tiny cottage, very non-conforming down at the lake that they had no access to really because there was no access road. In the fifties, they put a walkway. They can't park in the cul-de-sac or anything because I own it. They can't park on the street. But if they were to walk from Route 11, they can walk down the street, up through the woods and down to the cottage. And that remains. So even if I tear the house down and build a new house, that doesn't affect anything because it's only a walkthrough. And it's a path of 4 or 5 feet wide. And I didn't even know those folks had requested it, but we know it. It was there. It was there. I left it in the deed when I bought the property, but it doesn't have any effect on me.
So the right of way stays.
It stays,
Yeah,
and
it stays.
may even get better.
And it's truly a walk-through right away, because again, there's no parking, there's no driving.
Is it
Strictly.
It's a path.
It is a right of way, deeded right of way.
Okay, thank you.
Either right, yes. Nope, there's they're walking down to a neighbor's waterfront. That is literally on the water. I mean, it's down a mountain. Yeah, they can't, there's no way they can access it otherwise.
Are there any more sections in Article 400 that you missed? Okay.
So I kind of know what you kind of like.
I'm just curious, either that or I was hoping that you might be want to include a couple more articles. You know, just in case.
And just if you didn't do this, you'd still be in violation of all these articles and the right of way issue would remain the same. So really, the only thing you're affecting here is that boundary line adjustment, making the non-conforming lot bigger and closer to less non-conforming.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Correct.
thank you.
So in regards to the department, conservation and fire department both have the same question, and both of them said that there was no answer given or no appropriate answer given, and that is to make the lot a 30,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to 20,500.
Yeah.
That would still leave the other lot plenty of room to be, because after this is said and done, the other lot will be at 47,000.
Correct.
So if they gave you another 10,000 square feet, you now have at least that portion. So I'm not saying that should be done, but why isn't that being done?
First of all, is because the amount of land I'm purchasing, 7,000 or 8,000 or whatever it is, goes up a hill, that's fine. Beyond that, crest the hill, and then I become in their backyard.
Hmm.
They literally, their access now is right off of Route 11 or Loon Cove Road.
Yep.
Their backyard is all private. It physically goes up a side of a mountain, and then I'm on the other side. So I'm cresting the mountain and they crest the mountain and I don't disturb them and they don't disturb me. So I didn't think it was my right to ask for any more, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I just took what I could get and there was no argument from them.
Yeah,
Other than that, I would literally own up their hill and down the other side and that encroaches on them.
Okay,
You know.
I misinterpreted. I thought somebody mentioned that there wouldn't be enough land, the other one, but there is, but I just,
Yeah.
thank you, appreciate that.
But a moment ago, you said the reason you weren't doing it was because they weren't going to allow you to.
Right. They wouldn't allow me to because they don't want me to.
To
own
encroach.
Over the hill and down in their backyard. Originally, the Bells owned the whole private road and they owned everything around it. They have been subdividing for years and I purchased off the Bells. Mrs. Bell is over here, the daughter, and she bought she has the land next to me. So in accordance with her wishes, I took what I could get. And again, kept me less non-conforming. Or conforming.
Understood.
Anything else from the board? Any other comments you want to make before we open up to public?
No, it's just that like I said, I've worked with you guys forever and I'm just trying to appeal to the master plan. You know, we're just trying to make something a little better than it already is.
Okay. At this point, we'll open up application Z25-14 for the public. And to get some order to this, we'll start with folks that are in favor. If you'd like to speak in favor, if you'd come up to the microphone. Sir, if you would, come up. If you don't mind, if you come up to the microphone, let us know who you are, where you live.
Hi, I'm Nancy Bell and I am the owner of the land at 21 Bell Road. And I am completely in favor of this. As Bruce said, my property goes up, the back of the property goes up the hill. And we would maintain the top of the hill. And then as the hill goes down towards the lake, that would become his property. So rightfully, it does seem like the back of that hill would go with that property. And as it was all one property at one time anyway. Been family property since 46.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else in favor? At this point, then we'll move on to anyone from the public that's opposed. Seeing none, we'll move on. Any further questions? Board? Let's move to the sheet. Paul, if you wouldn't mind starting this.
Sure.
The variance will not be contrary to the public interest. This is a unique situation, a property line adjustment and between two properties, and I don't see the contrary interest to anyone else.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
The spirit of the ordinance, this request is in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, the intent of the master plan, and with the convenience, health, safety, and character of the district within which it is proposed. We deal with a lot of cases like this as far as older buildings, cottages, et cetera, problems with variances in regards to setbacks, et cetera. This is certainly is in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance and the intent of the master plan.
For all those reasons, I agree.
I agree as well.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Substantial justice. By granting this variance, substantial justice will be done. The applicant has been forthwith and told us exactly what he plans on doing. He's taking a non-conforming lot and actually making it more conforming, although it's not totally conforming. And his intent is a good intent, along with the subsequent owner agreeing to sell them the land and to keep the knoll where it is.
I agree the benefit for the applicant far outweighs any detriment to the town of Walton.
Agreed.
I agree for the same reasons.
I agree.
Values of surrounding properties. The request will not diminish the value of surrounding properties. There was no testimony with respect to change in value, but one would assume that an improved lot would improve the value of surrounding properties as well.
I agree. We haven't heard any evidence to suggest that it would diminish the value of the surrounding properties.
I agree to that as well.
I agree.
I agree.
Hardship, for purposes of this paragraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of the provision to this property, which I agree. And the proposed use is a reasonable one. I agree.
I agree as well.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree. Chairman, I move that we approve number 1 variance for application Z 2514.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then variance,
The motion needs to state exactly what the variance is for. Can we look at
someone
the
wanna make a motion,
motion
including the detail on the item 1 request, please.
for the section and what the section is for?
Go ahead, Paul.
For the creating a new non-conforming lot less than the required 30,000 square feet.
That was zoning section 412.
Zoning section 412 dash 8A.
Second,
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The first piece passes. We'll move on to the second variance request. Variance is requested for Article 400, Section 412B.1.B to permit a new lot with less than the required 150 feet at the shoreline. Guessing you're going to state the same case, but is there anything you'd like to add?
No, pretty much. I can repeat everything you'd like.
No, we're good.
No, that's
We got a
okay.
lot of
Good,
people
but
here.
thanks for the offer. Maybe after 10 o'clock we
You
can.
guys,
Any questions from the board?
Mm-mm.
Okay, moving on from the board, we'll open this up to the public. Anyone in favor? Yeah. Because you're in favor, would you please come up to the microphone and state it? Sorry to do that to you, but we need to get it on record.
Favor of that.
And again, you could restate who you are and where you're at. Thank you, Nancy.
Fiance. So I'm in favor of it as well.
Congratulations. Anybody opposed? For public, for anyone opposed? Okay, moving on. Any other questions from the board? Can someone make a motion? Stating the detail?
Go through the worksheet.
Do you want to go to the
I'm
work?
sorry, you have the
The
worksheet.
worksheet, yeah.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
The request is in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, the intent of the master plan, and with the convenience, health, safety, and character of the district within it, which it is proposed.
Mike?
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Where am I here?
Right there.
Next to Tim, you're next to Tim's.
Okay, by granting the variance, substantial justice will be done. I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agree.
I can't agree.
The request will not diminish the value of surrounding properties. There was testimony with respect to value changes.
Agreed.
Agree.
Agree.
Hardship, for purposes of this subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. 1, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision of the property, which I agree with, and the proposed use is reasonable one. Agreed.
Agreed.
Agree.
Agree.
I agree.
Can I get someone to make a motion on that?
Chairman, I'll move that in case Z 2514, we approve variance number 2, a variance from Article 400, Section 412B1B to permit a new lot with less than the required 150 feet at the shoreline.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2 passes. Good.
Doing
Love it.
good. Keep going.
Moving on. The third request is for a variance for Article 400, Section 412B.1.D to permit a new lot with less than the minimum required frontage of 50 feet at the street right of way. Is there anything you'd like to add?
As mentioned, it's a private road. It's never had any
Thank you.
frontage anyways.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll open it up to public input. I'm almost afraid to do this, but is there anybody out there that would like to speak in favor? Please state your name and where you live.
Favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
Well, more so to him, probably. He seems to be the guy winning on that deal. Okay, thank you. Anybody opposed?
Mr. Chair, right, and for the record, the communication from, Mary Jane Peronovich at, 22 Boat Cove Road. She goes on to say, 2 sections. 1, the right of way that we use to get to the path that goes to our property at 22 Boat Cove Road needs to be intact and available to us as it has been stated since 1955 in the deed. We understand that the right-of-way goes behind the garage and then the path follows the property line via a wire fence down to the side of our cottage at 22 Boat Cove. The right-of-way is a means for the fire department to get to the path which leads to our cottage if there is ever a fire. The right-of-way is the only way to get to the pathway to the cottage since it is on its own property. If this right-of-way is trying to be relocated, we'd like to know where the relocation would be. That's part 1. I will ask you, is the right of way looking to be moved?
No, not at this time at all.
Part
It should
2,
be right where it is
It's
now.
right where it is, yeah.
And it's
When
written
he
into the
wants to
deed.
build, it may get
It's in the deed,
relocated.
Yeah, I saw it in the
Okay.
deed,
It'll
right?
be clearly
It's
marked.
clearly.
It's in the deed.
Part 2, we would also like to maintain privacy between the properties with the trees that are currently at the property lines. Would not want to lose the privacy that we have between the properties if there be any sort of renovating to the buildings or the land. So can we speak to that?
Well, I mean, if the trees are on my property, I have to just see how I'm gonna lay out the house. But there's only 4 trees between the 2 of us. So I
Okay.
don't plan on anything on the line. I would prefer to leave as well, because I
Okay.
don't want to be looking, to be honest
Okay.
with you, at their cottage. So
Okay.
I'd say there's no issue.
Okay, I want to make sure it's on the record.
Yeah,
Like I
absolutely.
mentioned at the previous case, we get a lot of
Absolutely.
communications from
Absolutely.
people for whatever reason they can't attend tonight. I want to make sure that it's duly noted and I appreciate your answers.
I had sent them a couple of notices too of what we were doing in the meantime. That's why I think that they probably responded.
Okay,
It's just nice to publicly have it in record.
Yeah, I didn't never met them, so I just sent out a notice to them.
Yeah.
So.
thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Would the board, anyone on the board like to make a motion on this case?
We're gonna go to the parent sheet.
Variance board, thank you.
Yeah.
Fire away.
Okay, the variance will not be contrary to public interest.
I agree.
I agree. Agree.
I agree.
The request is in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, the intent of the master plan, and with the convenience, health, safety, and character of the district within which it is proposed.
I agree. Agree.
I agree.
I agree as well.
By granting the variance substantial justice, you can sit down unless you want to stand up.
He's waiting for the next.
We're gonna call her back.
I know, but she's getting tired. I mean, I don't blame her. By granting the variance substantial justice, will be done. Agree.
Agreed.
Agree.
Agree.
Request will not diminish the value of surrounding properties, but no testimony with respect to property values.
I agree that nothing's been presented either way, so I agree.
Agreed as well.
I agree.
I agree.
Hardship. For purposes of this subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property, that distinguish it from other properties in the area. One, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to this property. I agree with that. The proposed use is a reasonable one, yes.
I agree for the same reasons.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for KC 25-14 noted as number 3, which is a variance as requested for Article 400, Section 412B1D to permit a new lot with less than a minimum required frontage of 50 feet at the street right of way.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 3 passes. We're on to item 4 for KC 25-14. Item 4, a variance is requested for Article 400, Section 412F. Permit an existing building on a lot that is under the minimum 22,000. To permit an existing building on a lot that is under the minimum 22,500 square foot, 75% of the 30,000 square foot requirement. Gentlemen,
Everything's.
Not much else to add.
okay.
Grandfather goes.
Question from the board? I'll open it up to public. Anyone in favor?
Nancy Bell, I'm in favor of this.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Congratulations on your marriage.
Good times, huh?
Upcoming marriage.
Thank you.
Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed to the marriage? Speak now or forever hold your peace. No one opposed to the marriage either, okay. Let's go to the worksheet. All fire away, please.
Variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
No, you're next.
Spirit of the ordinance. The request is in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, the intent of the master plan, and with the convenience, health, safety, and character of the district within which it is proposed.
I so agree.
Agreed.
I agree as well.
By granting the variance, substantial justice will be done.
We agree.
Agreed.
Agreed. Good job, Frank.
The request will not diminish the value of surrounding properties.
Agreed.
Great.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Hardship. For purposes of this subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. Item 1, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of the provision to this property. I agree. The answer, yes. The second is the proposed use is a reasonable one, which I agree to as well.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Can we have a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion to approve case Z 25-14. Number 4, variance is requested for Article 400, Section 412 F to permit an existing building on a lot that is under the minimum 22,500 square feet required.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4 passes. For case Z 25-14, item 5, an equitable waiver is requested for Article 300, Section 327A.1 for an existing building within the 50-foot shoreline setback on lots created after 1995. Questions from the board?
May I ask a question? Why is it an equitable waiver as opposed to a variant? Like all the other things, the variance was required because you created a new lot. Now you've got this,
Doing what I was told.
I say,
Yeah.
okay.
Or be- Yeah.
I'm just
guided
curious
by
as to the,
planning or whatever, but that's what we were told to do.
okay, I was curious as to the distinction because you've got a violation of the dimensional requirement, but is that violation the 50-foot setback violation? So that's what we mean by it. I was just curious as to why it wasn't a variance, because the criteria, of course, are going to differ. But I'm not saying it isn't appropriate. I was just curious as to, you've met the variance criteria on these, so I can. Anyway, all right, thank you.
What we were told to do, so.
Paul, does it also make, I mean, isn't this, aren't we allowing a waiver for something that already exists?
Well, the
That's right.
the variance accomplishes that, and they, they wouldn't need a variance because they were grandfathered, but by virtue of the fact they created a new lot by doing the boundary line adjustment, now everything's in violation, the grandfather's gone, so they got to get all these variances, which they now have obtained, and it was right down the road, and it all makes sense. But the last one is because the structure is, and it's been existing since 1938, is within the 50-foot shoreline setback. That's a violation. So it would seem, I'm just curious as to why the others were cured by virtue of a variance. This is asking for equitable waiver, which generally is used in a situation where the town is involved somehow or other people are, and a mistake is made and nobody knows it and it goes on. And it would be inequitable to require the property owner to rectify the problem since everybody was involved in creating it. This just seemed like it's different from the other four, but I imagine the criteria are met by virtue of the same facts, but so I don't think it's going to matter, frankly, what it's called. I was just curious as to why it was proceeding under equitable waiver. But that's fine.
I did a setback, another lot, it was a special exception or equitable waiver for a front setback.
I say, yeah. So sometimes it's an appropriate
I guess.
way to go about it.
Is that
Yeah.
an instance where it was built prior to this, prior to the
Correct.
setback requirement, that may be the reason.
Right.
Yeah.
So this was.
The house was 200 years old, been on the road forever.
This was in conformity at one time when it was built, it was in conformity.
1938, didn't have any zoning.
Well, they have setback from the lake either.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Let's open it up to public input. Would anyone like to speak in favor? No one has to. Would anybody like to? We could have the wedding tonight. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board to go through the equitable waiver worksheet. After reviewing the application and hearing all the evidence and testimony regarding the appeal request before them, the Town of Alton Zoning Board of Adjustment has determined the following statement. A1, that the violation was not noticed or discovered by any owner, former owner, owner's agent, representative, or municipal official until after a structure in violation had been substantially completed or until after a lot or other division of land in violation that had been subdivided by conveyance to a bona fide purchaser for value. I don't believe this one applies. It's a no. Is that correct? My interpretation of that?
What violation? was
There
it?
is none. So the answer is a no,
Why
right?
are we doing this?
I don't know. So we're going down a path. The second one doesn't seem to apply either because it was done out of ignorance of the law. All right, the third,
It should have been a
not
variance.
suited to
Norma,
public-private
what would be your
nuisance.
thoughts?
Yeah.
Norma, what are you thinking?
I was thinking of saying that I was just doing what I was told. It seems like under this situation, that probably should be a variance. Because it really feels like
It
all the
really
others, and
It
it
really
is
should.
violating the front setback.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to move it.
Oh, boy.
Chairman, but since I'm part of that decision, Ryan Heath, the town administrator. The reason we went to an equitable waiver versus a variance, because as you stated, it was in compliance when it was a non-conforming use that was compliant back when it was originally built. But merely because of the inception of a new lot and a new creation.
Right.
It created a violation, but with a variant, they're requesting to be waived. In this particular case, the violation now with the new lot is already occurring. So the equitable waiver is in lieu of the variance. The difference between the two being the house is already in place. They're asking for forgiveness, not permission. With a variance, you're asking for permission. I don't know. Does
Yeah,
that make sense
okay.
in that time?
The only thing is that it does, and I understand why it was chosen. The criteria, however, are different, and if you answer that in the negative, I think it almost requires you to deny the equitable waiver because you have to say yes to those things. The criteria for equitable waiver, you guys would all have to answer yes to for the equitable waiver to be granted. It's when a mistake is made, it's when a violation occurred, nobody knew it. That's not really here. I'm just wondering whether it would
I
be,
would question that statement,
Yeah,
Paul,
right.
because if you read item 3, right, these all can't be all true. So if you read item 3, I think we're covered. Item 3 on the equitable waiver sheet. So item 1 and 2 would not apply. Item 3 actually would be a yes. So I don't think this is expecting a yes on all of them because that would be contradictory. If we get a yes on any of them, I think is what it's looking for. If you want to look at the,
I see. So you're saying that a yes on any of the criteria of equitable waiver would warrant a granting of the equitable waiver?
under my interpretation of what the 3
Yeah,
are, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you only really need one to be a yes.
I agree with that interpretation. In that case, I think we've found yes to one of them. And so I'm going to move that the board approve the equitable waiver of Article 300, Section 327A1 for an existing building within the 50-foot setback from the Shoreland Act.
I hate to do this to you, Tim, but
I'll
since it
second that.
makes,
Second
Just
that
to
motion.
read number 3.
yeah, can we read number 3 first and then kind of vote on that?
Sure.
So I can get that in the record. So for the equitable waiver of, you guys don't mind, I'll do that. The Equitable waiver of dimensional requirements worksheet. Item 3 states that the physical or dimensional violation does not constitute a public or private nuisance, nor diminish the value of other property in the area, nor interfere with or adversely affect any present or permissible future uses of any such property. And I would say yes.
And I would agree to that, yes. Okay, what about number
I
4?
think we should get the vote on all, vote 5.
Yes.
Yes, Frank. To item 3 on the waiver sheet.
On number 3 of the waiver, on number 3.
Well, Attorney Monsioni took my page from me, okay, so I can't read it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I have it back?
Yeah, you can. Thank you.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you. I appreciate it.
So you want me to do 3?
No, I just want this to
Say
get
yes.
yes or
Oh,
no.
yes, I agree.
I agree.
Not telling you what to say, yes or no.
I'm sorry. You can have it back now.
I don't need it.
By the way, Frank's available for weddings too.
And you get number 4 on the back.
Number 4, thank you. For number 4, the statement is that due to the degree of past thank you. Due to the degree of past construction or investment made in ignorance of the facts constituting violation, the cost of correction so far outweighs any public benefit to be gained that it would be inequitable to require the violation to be corrected. I agree with that.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. Anybody like to make the motion on this one, please?
I'll repeat my motion then that the board approve the equitable waiver in application Z2514, the equitable waiver from Article 300, Section 327A1 for an existing building within the 50-foot shoreline setback.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All 5 items pass. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
The next case is item Z25-15. The owner is Walter and Janice Borowski, and the agent is the Prospect Mountain Survey, Joshua Ebal. Come up to the table, please. Thank you. Would you give us a moment to review the case? Thank you.
Reasons, the other. Right. Right. It's got the chair.
Case is Z25-15. There are 4 requests here as well. The first request is a special exception is requested for Article 600, Section 602, C.3 to permit an individual sewage disposal system within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. Anybody on the completeness of the application?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to accept application Z 25-15 is complete.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's move forward. With that said, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Sean Dunphy. I'm an attorney from Cronin, Bisson, and Zelinski in Manchester. I'm joined by Josh Tebow of Prospect Mountain Survey. We are here tonight on behalf of Walter and Janice Borowski, trustees of the Walter P. Borowski Living Trust, to request a special exception and variances for their property at 30 Eagles Way. I know you are looking to break up the different requests, but if the board is okay with it, I'll just give a general outline in the interest of time. Basically, what we're here for is to ask to add 2 additional units to this existing manufactured housing community. Currently, there are 55 manufactured homes on this 57 acre lot, excuse me, that are that make up the Eagles Rest community. The original plan for this community was approved back in the 1980s. And since then, there have been 2 phases of development. The first phase took place in the 80s. of 36 units that are connected to a state-approved community septic system. And then the second phase took place in the late 1990s, early 2000s. There were 19 units in phase two, and those units each have their own individual septic system. In total, there are 93 residents in this community. They are all renters. The property is completely owned by the Borowski Trust. And they currently rent to their renters at an under market rate when compared to similar communities in the state of New Hampshire. They hope to continue the lower rent level that they are able to offer while offering key services to the private roads, such as plowing and then landscaping and other aspects of the rental community. But in order to maintain the rents and try to keep them as low as possible, they're seeking a modest increase in the density from 55 units to 57. Unit 56, as shown in the plan, will be on one of the private roads entirely. And then the same goes for unit 57. As you probably saw in the agenda, there were two other variance applications regarding an RV on the property. Our goal, instead of trying to maintain that RV, which has been a subject of discussion with the town, is to just remove it and eliminate that issue and replace it with a HUD approved unit. That unit is currently used by a former employee of the housing development. It was a groundskeeper. He goes to Florida in the winter and stays here in the summer. And the hope is that he will still continue to use the new home the same way that he's been using the RV. And both of the new units will be well within the community, as you can see from the plans. They're not near the abutting properties, and they'll be similar in nature and character to the existing units within the community. I'm happy to go into specifics for each of the.
Could you, well,
Yeah.
let's start with that.
Right,
So
yeah.
item one is the special exception for the an individual sewage disposal system. Can you speak to that?
Sure. Yes, so the elements for the special exception are that a plan has been submitted in accordance with the Alton zoning ordinance. Yes, we have done that. The specific site is an appropriate location for the use. The individual system we're proposing will service the unit 56, and it is going to be matching the current individual units that are on the property. And it will be within the sewer capacity for the overall property. The second, third element is factual evidence is not found that the property values in the district will be reduced due to incompatible uses. The proposed sewage disposal system will be well within the boundaries of the existing property. It's an existing improved property with a development already, so it will match the character and is unlikely to have any impact on the abutting properties at all. Number four, there is no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. At this point, we're not aware of any direct objections to the septic system, or excuse me, the sewage disposal system, but it is well within the community. It will be installed by a licensed installer and approved by the state.
Have you seen the conservation committee document on this?
Oh, yes, yeah, I can.
So the existing system for the community septic system was replaced in 2014. So we have no reason to believe that it is not working properly. But we do acknowledge that the Conservation Commission maybe request to have it inspected or some form of that.
Sounds like there's confusion. So you're basically adding two more units to the existing system.
Oh, so both proposed units will be on individual
On their own.
systems. So there is no increase to the load for the community system. The community system is only designed for the units that are hooked up to it. It cannot accept any increase.
Let's open it up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Open up to board discussion.
Thank you. If I may. So the reason for your special exception request regarding the sewage disposal system is because the system is going to be within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay,
yes.
so can you address that? So you've talked about a sewer disposal system. What do you mean by that, first of all, by the way? What is that? Is it a septic system? It's
Yeah.
a sewer disposal. So you're going to have a septic system. So you'll have a tank and a leach bed?
Correct.
Okay. And what part of that system is actually going to end up in the Aquifer Protection District?
For unit 56, the entire thing will be in the aquifer
Both the
protection.
tank and the leach bed?
Yep, and the
Okay.
unit itself. And
And-
for unit 57, it is not within the aquifer.
Okay, so we're only talking, right now, the special exception is only needed for the one unit and for its septic system.
Correct.
And,
And the unit itself, you said, right?
No, the
Well, but
special exception just pertains to the
Okay, gotcha.
just to the septic system.
Yep.
But
So,
the unit, the tank and the field are all within the aquifer zone.
the unit itself is going to be in the Aquifer District as well? Okay, along with its septic system. And the septic system is going to be compliant with all appropriate setbacks and approved by the DES, of course, right?
Correct. So we already have state subdivision approval, so we will have to apply for a septic system approval.
So, yeah, that's right. So your septic design has not been approved by the state yet. And on that design plan, you'll show that it's in the Aquifer Protection District, correct?
Yep.
Are there any special measures that you're taking in the design and construction of this system that are required because of the fact that it's being located in an aquifer protected district?
There are no specific additional requirements from the state, even though we are over the aquifer.
Okay, so you're able in an aquifer protected district to just put a regular septic system in there as far as the state's concerned, is that right?
Correct.
Are there any other concerns about being in an aquifer protected district with waste going into that? Is there a chance that because it's a protected area, it's going to somehow travel in an aquifer, a water supply, or get into a waterway?
We have no evidence of that so far. There are approximately 15 other units that have their own individual system that are within the aquifer protection overlay as well,
I say,
along with the community septic. To our knowledge, there has been no reports of any contamination. But
Okay.
again, that has been brought up as concern by the conservation.
so this isn't the only unit in that's putting a septic in the aquifer. There are several that have been there for years and
Yeah.
they seem to be okay. There's never been reported problems.
Yeah,
And the
so-
state has approved those, knowing even where they're located, right?
Yep, and so the town ordinance also allows for individual septic systems within the aquifer overlay. But talking with the code enforcer, we've kind of concluded that this is not just, since there are multiple units and the community system, that this proposed system also needs this variance,
A special exception.
a special exception.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Okay.
otherwise, a single family house would be allowed to just build a septic system within the aquifer overlay
I
district.
gotcha.
But since there's a combination of other systems on the single lot, we felt that a variance was.
A special exception would be appropriate. Yeah, yeah. Great. Thank you.
Chairman, yeah, please, Paul. In lieu of that, what Mr. Manzoni was saying, the state has approved the idea of putting two new individual septic systems. But that being said, there are others that are there, plus was it 16 that are attached to one unit? One
So
septic system.
the first 36 units are
Yep.
attached to the community septic.
Okay,
The additional, I
19.
believe it's 19 are on their own
okay,
individual
so there's,
septic.
okay.
And approximately 15 of those are also within the aquifer overlay.
Has anyone had a hydrologist come out and checked for the aquifer protection?
We have not yet.
And the state mention anything like that to you?
Nope. No, so the subdivision is approved already through the state. So we have been to the planning board already, but it was brought up that some variances may need to be acquired, so we do not have subdivision approval from the town yet. We need these variances first.
Okay, and it was determined by the state DES that the system that was there, that was connected to the other units was not adequate to attach to that it would have to be an individual system.
Yep, so the existing community system is designed for the units
And
that
that-
are hooked to it, and that's it. No additional loading. The lot itself, lot loads for roughly 69,000 gallons per day, which would equate to 460 bedrooms. Currently, there's only 128. So as far as total lot loading septic capacity, we are far below what the lot could potentially support.
Thank you.
So we are talking about the aquifer. That's first on the list, but I
Mhm.
think our first major issue here is the density. I know we're
Mhm.
talking about the aquifer right now, but I think perhaps density should be spoken about first.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Well, let's keep going forward with this. Anything else from the board?
Sorry.
Either one of them. We can't get the additional unit density.
Well, let's keep going as listed. But go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Anything else from the board?
I would like to ask Norma if she can elaborate on anything about existing conditions.
Mr. Dunphy alluded to the fact that the manager has been living in the RV that was on the site for a couple of years, which is one of the proposed new sites. So there's been someone living in an RV on this property for at least 2 years. The RV is supposed to be removed and that they will potentially use the site for a new manufactured home, providing we get approval for increasing the density. The existing 55 units was in compliance with the zoning ordinance when they were put in because the density was 1 dwelling per acre. And now the density is 2 dwellings, is 2 acres per dwelling, so it's doubled. So what they're currently way over their density. So the new requirement would allow them to have 28 dwellings with 2 acres each, and they're asking for number 56 and number 57. And they've submitted an existing conditions plan that doesn't even show that they've already put a site in. The manufactured home and the RV are in place. The manufactured home was installed and planned to be installed about a year ago and has continued to be put in without any permits, without any planning board approval, without any zoning approval. So this has been a long case.
Thank you.
I can give you more information as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask, I thought I knew the answer to this, but maybe I don't. Has the septic system been installed for where the RV is, without the ties going to be located?
No, so no septic has been installed yet for the RV,
Or the other one?
either not for unit 56 or 57.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask for clarification? When you reference the HUD-approved unit, is that one of the 57 units?
I've lost this.
Includes the HUD-approved unit?
Yes, when I made reference to that, I was talking about the one that's going to take the place of the.
Of the RV, right.
Correct. Yes,
But I guess what I'm confused at, so the total number of units, if all this were granted, is going to be 57
yes,
total?
correct.
Okay.
Yes,
And there's 58 acres of land,
57, yes.
58 or 57 acres?
57.
57 acres. So at that point, it would end up being 1 dwelling unit per acre, even though it may not be. Is it spaced out as such? Is that the spacing, or it's just that the total lot size is 57 acres, the total number of units is 57, but they're not necessarily spaced out such that each one is given an acre. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's keep going in the order we're going, because to Ryan's point, this might take care of some of the other issue as we go forward here. Any other questions from the board? Any other comments you want to make before we open up to public? At this point, we'll open up to the public, and again, to make it sort of organized, we'll start with anyone who's in favor of this. Seeing none, we'll move to anyone opposed that would like to come up and make a comment. Seeing none, we'll move back to the special exception worksheet. Seeing no special exceptions. Okay, so go ahead, Paul,
Okay. Can I interrupt for 1 sec?
please.
This, I'm just going through these communications that have come in, so bear with me for a second here.
And should the letters we received be read as part of the public input? Probably, right? Would you like me to start there?
It's,
This one here,
This one, yeah,
this one here should be read.
it should be read, okay. There's an email that was sent into Norma and to Robin. Robin is in the zoning office,
Planning.
planning office, planning and zoning, thank you. Jay? Pardon me?
Planning and zoning.
Okay. It's from, it's actually addressed on the bottom, but the email address is here. This message was sent from outside your organization. Hi, Norma. Thank you for informing me about the ZBA meeting. Any comments or information that I can send you can be shared with anyone that you want to. I have tried to communicate with Mr. Borowski about many things concerning Eagles Rest Park, but he is pretty much closed-minded and has made it clear to me that he isn't interested in how anyone in the park feels about anything. Roger Sample, who did most of the excavation and installment of the new homes and is the vice chairman of the planning board, should have educated Mr. Borowski about what he needed to do to expand his park, and maybe we wouldn't be in this predicament. I find it hard to believe that Roger Sample, with all his building experience and being a member of the planning board for many years, didn't follow the town and state rules and regulations that he imposes on other town residents that come before him on the planning board. I'll keep out of what the town should do about this. My involvement with Mr. Borowski about how he runs the park or how he wants to expand it isn't something that I really wanted to happen, especially at my age and my wife's health, but it happened. I hope things smooth out with all the parties involved with these unfortunate events. Signed, Jerry Dobb. This as well. Second letter came in concerning the case. This one, they're okay with us reading as well.
It's regarding a Facebook post that I have here as well.
Okay, this is a message coming into Norma. Jesse McCarthy, Ryan Heath, Jesse is also down in the planning office. Hi, Ryan, Jess, and Norma. Recently on an Alton, you know what, Tom, you're a little better at reading these, but I guess I'll keep going. Recently on an Alton Facebook page, there have been many comments about how unfair some citizens seem to have been treated when dealing with the planning board, code enforcement, and town administrator. I find that some of the comments have been somewhat unfair to each and every one of you, and some of the comments, in my opinion, are slanderous to Ryan Heath. I'm sure you all have been aware of these comments, but I have one in particular that I'd like to share with you. Walter Borowski made a comment about how he has been waiting 13 months to get an approval to add an additional home at Eagles Rest. He said he got state approval within days, and here it is months and months, resulting in many thousands of dollars in costs and still no approval. I guess Mr. Borowski thinks that because he violated many town and I assume state laws and ordinances by putting in the home that it was the town's fault because this new home approvals were, and I assume by this comment, still not approved. I apologize for that sentence, but that is how it's worded here. I won't go into detail as to the violations because I'm sure you all know them. One other comment I have is that when a town elected official goes on Facebook and adds comments to these ridiculous and unsupported comments, that it just adds fuel to the fire and accomplishes nothing. I won't mention any names, but if you do visit the Facebook page, you will know who I'm talking about. Jerry Dopp, both of those have been read primarily to be put into the record.
Have additional comments, if that's okay.
Sure.
Want to read the Facebook page?
Glad to read the Facebook page.
It's just the purple, the blue one.
I don't know if this is really value added.
I'm absolutely on board with you, Tom. Should we stop?
So maybe
It is
Paul,
value
you give
added.
us some guidance, but we opened up to public input of anybody who is in favor. We opened it up public input, anybody in opposition. As I read through these communications, and as we all probably have experienced at one point or another in our life, if some facts aren't correct, we all know social media can take off in many directions. And reading through this, it's very subjective and there's a lot of hearsay. So an opportunity is here before us for the public to come forward and speak specifically on what the issue is or the opposition is, but to say what another person said, and then he had said something to someone else, and then somebody on Facebook had a retort or either agreed or disagreed, has no place at this hearing. It has no merit. So unless, or do you feel, is that unnecessary for me?
I would make a comment on that. These two emails were sent in actually to be heard for the case. Norma's posting, I think, is a little different and unnecessary because that's just a Facebook.
I have direct response that is directly from me of something that happened to me involving this case. If you want to hear it at this point or
Sure.
when you work down
Yes.
to the other variances, either way. So in general, there has been a lot of talk about the town being difficult to work with. And that the owner is trying to make housing affordable and he's gearing that toward elderly people. So last fall, the owner had a couple that was under contract to move into this new manufactured home that's going on a lot that's not approved yet. He had known that for several months. Had a couple that was under contract. They were getting pushed along. They weren't getting a clear answer. They had come up to the town and said they had just sold their house and they were planning on moving into this new manufactured home and really didn't understand what the problem was and told him that they were told that it might be fixed in a couple of weeks. So I was the person that had to sort of clarify what was actually happening and that the approval for the expanded manufactured home park was not going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. So they had changed their whole life based on what the owner had told them. And I was the person that had to tell them what was really going on at the town. I don't think that's being warm and fuzzy to our residents in this town.
Thank you for that.
I do have one question, for Norma. Do they obtain a building permit or occupancy at this time
For what?
for the manufactured home?
The zoning board has to approve the expansion, which is what is on our docket tonight, and then the planning board has to approve the site, I believe.
Mhm.
And then he has to get the permit for it.
There was no permit ahead of time. In other words, this is already in existence.
Right.
That's my point.
And there was electric going in, there was no electric permit.
So my point is this has already been, the work has been done, it's completed, it's sitting and waiting without any permits.
And it was advertised last June for sale. The site work has all been done, the slab was put in, the electric was put in, the manufactured home was placed without any approvals.
And someone's in the RV is an issue as well, right?
The RV was going to stay there until just a couple of weeks ago, until the plan sort of changed. There's no address there. The RV has been sitting there for 2 years and there's no legal address for the place that it's sitting.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Noah.
So
I have an
keep-
opportunity-
keeping hold on just for one second. Let's keep to Tom's point, and he's absolutely right. Let's keep the discussion fact-based,
Well,
but if you have a response, please.
no, I mean, we just went through all that. I understand that things could have been handled better in this situation. We fully acknowledge that. That's why we're here tonight, to try to correct the issue, and the frustrations of the client mainly come from the fact that through, I don't think any fault of anyone at the town who's here now, but his entire file from those 1980s plans is gone. So we had to redo a lot of these plans. So that was some of the delay. I don't really want to go back and forth with this because it has nothing to do with the land. The point of being here tonight is about the property, not the owner. If people have negative opinions about Mr. Borowski, that's separate from the land that he owns. We're, again, just trying to put in 2 units here. And the history is the history at this point. There's not much we can do. We're just trying to be here to move forward.
So you agree with Norma's assessment? We should keep going forward, you're saying?
Yes, yeah, we're here tonight to correct prior issues, and it's shouldn't be a personal thing at this point.
Right, but you're agreeing with what Norma said, that there is a foundation in place, there is wire, electrical there, that's all there.
Right, no one's denying that. What had happened is, as soon as my client received the notice, he stopped doing what he was doing, hired Prospect Mountain to fix it. I don't know if the town has a different history of it, but we informed him that we need to fix this issue, and that's again why we're here tonight, so.
Let's keep going with the board. Any other questions or comments from the board?
So the RV that was on the property, it was stated that the groundskeeper was living there,
Correct, yes.
and then he doesn't live there during the winter, he goes to Florida.
Yes, yeah, he lives there for less than 6 months of the year. It's not his main residence. There was an email in the file from a prior building inspector that, in my opinion, has multiple interpretations of whether or not it was approved to be allowed. But regardless, we're just trying to get rid of that problem in general and become more compliant with the town.
Okay,
And still allow this gentleman to have a place to live.
all right. So he was living there last summer.
I believe so, yes. I'm not 100% sure on that.
And I understand you want to get past everything in the past, but the email, I think it's the same one that I'm reading from the previous building inspector, John Deva. To Mr. Borowski, this is his words, to make the town's position unequivocally clear, you may not use an RV as a permanent home for any reason. And then removing axles and foundations and doing this is not acceptable.
Mhm.
RVs do not meet the requirements of the New Hampshire Building Code, are not acceptable as any permanent living quarters. Now, this was back in April, right? A couple of weeks away from where 2 years ago now. And this person still lived there during the summer based upon what you were just explaining.
And that's why we're here, to try to correct this.
I would just wonder if the current condition of the use of the property and the structures that are there may impact whether the criteria for special exception are being met. For example, whether there's adequate sewerage disposal, all that, the vehicular traffic, pedestrian, whatever it is. And now usually we're judging those criteria on an empty lot, yet to people usually don't come in after the fact and seek a special exception. So it could have an impact on that, and perhaps even on conditions that might be imposed if it were to be approved, on the fact that all appropriate inspections and permitting and all that stuff be obtained to correct whatever's been going on out there, because before the board can make a factual determination of whether there's public safety issues or whatever the criteria are, it may be required to make sure that nothing on that property in its current condition violates the criteria required for special exception. And since the structures are there, probably the only way to do it would be to make it conditional that any situation that's out there get corrected, approvals be obtained, and a process be followed, if
And-
that makes sense.
No, I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. I would just say that all the relief we're requesting tonight is to address the concerns
Yeah.
with the two places. I know Josh has been working closely with the town administration to, correct these issues. We have the list of variances in the special exception to try to correct it. And again, it's 2 units that are going to be within this existing community and eventually will be a nice place for, someone in town to live who's already here, who wants to downsize or join this community with little impact on any other property in the area.
So if we go down the special exception path on the individual sewage systems for the 2 properties, we're not necessarily approving the 2 properties, we're approving the septic systems. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense because then we still have to go to the other properties, but maybe we should work our way through it just that way and figure out whether or not we're going to allow the septic systems and then get to whether or not the properties will be allowed. Unless someone has a better idea, but I think that's basically what this is asking for. Any comments from the board?
That how it was on the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think if we just follow the agenda, because, one's going to affect the other anyway, you might as well go in the order on the agenda.
Then if we can for item 1, the special exception, let's go to the special exception, seeing that there's no other comment. Let's go to the special exception worksheet. Again, focusing on Article 600, Section 602, C.3 to permit an individual sewage disposal system within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. Would you want me to start? Okay. Okay.
A plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section B, 520B. And yes, it has.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Appropriateness, the specific site. I believe this specific site is not an appropriate location for the use. As this was first laid out, 55 acres, is that correct?
57.
57 acres under the criteria of a 1 acre lot per unit, which we have already established that's not the case. And now opening Pandora's box, now trying to get this approved with 2 more sites now comes under the new criteria. So I do not feel it's an appropriate location for the use.
You're up.
Frank, it's you. I know. I'm thinking.
Okay. You want us to come back to you?
You doing that?
Yeah, could you come back to me, please?
I'll be glad to go next unless, Tim, you want to. Go ahead, Tim.
Site is appropriate location for the use. There are other manufactured homes in the area. This is simply a single addition.
The specific site is not an appropriate location for the use. I agree with Tom that initially, when this was approved way back when, the land requirement was smaller, but there's a reason why that has been expanded. And part of that reasoning is for septic control. So I would say it's not.
And I agree that it is not as well for the same reasons. not the appropriate location for this use, and it's, the density and the lot size is just, not warranted. Right?
Yeah. I think that it is appropriate size.
Okay, so on acceptance, we were 5 yeses. On appropriateness, were 2 is versus 3 is nots. Keep going on value.
Actual vet, can I go on, move on?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Factual evidence is not found that property value in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land uses. There's been no demonstrated facts that property values will be reduced.
I agree.
Yeah, no data has been presented in either way on property value, so I agree.
I agree. I agree.
There's no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. There was no, there were objections from abutters, but some of them were based on hearsay and none of them were based on demonstrable fact.
I agree.
Agreed. For those same reasons, I agree.
I agree.
Nuisance. There's no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including the location, design, or access ways and off-street parking, particularly under what the special exceptions being requested to work with. So no, or is no.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I agree.
I agree.
Adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities. Will be provided to ensure proper operation of the proposed use and structure.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
Sewage, is detailed in regards to the sewage, specifics in regards to how many units are on, a community sewage and others that are on individual. This would be individual. It would obviously be a contingency in regards to any, approvals going forward. So, they spoke to the fact it would be an individual sewage situation. So I believe there is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Agree.
Intent, the proposed use or structure, I believe, is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan. There are going to be 2 more units put into the already existing complex. I don't think it's inconsistent with the spirit of the ordinance, nor the intent of the master plan, especially when these units are in many cases for our seniors.
I agree.
I'll disagree. The master plan calls for the protection of wetlands and water, and although it sounds like the 2 septic systems will comply, we are still forcing more onto less land than what really is currently allowed.
And I also disagree. It is not consistent with the master plan, and for the same reasons, there's still a hydrologist hasn't looked or checked into the the adequate area for the aquifer water quality. I think that's something that should be taken in consideration with adding the extra load of septic systems. So I don't think this is in the spirit of the ordinance or the master plan.
I concur, I agree. It's not consistent.
So then we go back on this for acceptance. On the plat, there were 5 yeses. On the appropriateness, there were 2 is and 3 is not. On value, there were 5 is not. On butters, there was is no valid objection. On nuisance, there were 5 is no, undue nuisance. On facilities, there was 5 adequate facilities will be provided. On sewage, there are 5 there is adequate area for safe. And on intent, there were 2 is consistent with the master plan and 3 not consistent. With that said, where do we go with that? Does that mean it's not passed? Honestly,
It's not passed.
it's not passed because 2 items don't fly.
It's not passed.
Okay, so on item 1, on KC 25-15, item 1, the request for a special exception did not pass. Denied. With that said, do we move on to item 2?
Vote.
You have to make a formal
You need
motion
I
to,
think you
Gotta make
Ex-
deny.
Make a motion.
I think we probably need a motion and a vote.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Let's do it. Someone want to make a motion on the special exception?
I'll make a motion, a special exception for case E 25-15, item 1. A special exception is requested for Article 600, Section 602, C3 to permit an individual sewage disposal system within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District.
A second.
All in favor?
What is the motion that it be?
Permitted, it sounds like.
Are you motioning it not to be approved?
I'll restate it. A special exception for case E 25-15 is requested for Article 600, Section 602, C3 to permit an individual sewage disposal system within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District has since been denied.
I'll second.
All in favor of the denial?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
I'm sorry, Tim, I missed.
I said nay.
And what did Tim say?
Tim said nay.
And I say aye. So the special exception is denied by a vote 3-2.
Okay.
We move on to the next. Let's do that.
Aye.
Case number Z 25-15, item 2, a variance is requested for Article 400, Section 452A.1 to permit 57 manufactured housing units in a park where only 28 are allowed per the rural zone density restrictions. The floor is yours.
Thank you. For the most part, I believe I covered what I would say in the beginning, so I'll try not to repeat myself out of respect for everybody's time. I will just say again that we are requesting 2 additional units in addition to the existing 55. The 2 units are well within the property, will not impact the surrounding property values. The master plan actually calls for more housing and matching and protecting the natural resources of the area. This can help with both of those ideals in terms of not developing other lots. The special characteristics of this property is it has been a existing existing manufactured housing community for a number of years, and there is ample space for these 2 additional units. And overall, I just can't say it enough, the need for housing in general, and this helps alleviate that burden, even by 2 is still an improvement.
Thank you. Board? I'll start.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one small comment. We have two variances on our sheet this evening. Number 2 is to one section that refers to the density required in the zone. And number 3 refers to the manufactured housing section that just states you can't exceed the density in the zone. So that's kind of a duplicate. Number 3 would be a duplicate of number 2. I really don't think we need to have number 3. Because it's asking for a variance from the same regulation. It's just located
Agreed.
within the manufactured homing zoning.
Ryan, any reason for the two?
No, they refer back to us.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, in here I just have like, I believe it's a duplication question. So number 2 would be more accurate.
Since we have them here, should we work our way through all 4? We might as well, right?
Do
That's what
1,
this
2,
is
and
about.
4. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Should I, if I could make yeah, you were going to ask if
Yeah, so somewhere in here, you refer to the, we should accept that there's no difference between going from 55 to 57. Can you give me some rationale for that argument?
I don't believe I exactly said that. I said it's a modest increase. And if you look at this community, the size, the fact that it's on a private road that's maintained by the owner, it is able to maintain these additional units. As Josh said, the septic, although you disagree, is been approved for a larger number than is currently on the property. And just in general, 57 units is well within, as you can see from the setbacks, it's similar to what is already there. And the property is able to maintain those 2 additional units.
Okay, I guess I was just asking because on the worksheet you guys submitted says the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because 55 units are existing. But I guess that's just answering to the worksheet.
Well, and we have a supplemental narrative too that was included, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask procedurally, so the board now no longer has number 3 variance is no longer required because it's duplicative of the second one? Is that what the board?
No, well, actually, I don't think we've decided that yet.
Right, I was going to say if the
I thought-
applicant
Yeah.
agrees and, yeah.
Because maybe we should just work our way through all 4, even if the argument is somewhat the same, since they're on the documents that's submitted. And just, try to keep it moving, but would that make more sense? I think it would. I think it would be a safer bet.
Yeah, I mean, if the board made a determination that the variance wasn't needed in order for the applicant to do what the applicant is seeking to do, and the board decides that that variance isn't needed, and as long as there was no objection from the applicant and say, yeah, that's one less variance I have to deal with, I think that would work for the board and the applicant. But again, it's up to the board.
Well, we can ask that now. Do you feel that the same way that we feel there's redundancy there?
Well, if the board is on record of saying it's not needed, I believe there's a case, Bartlett, that says its zoning board can make that kind of determination. So as long as
Right.
that it doesn't come back later saying we need it, we would be
Okay.
fine with that.
So let's wait till we get past this one, then we'll move on 3. We'll make a motion for that very thing, Paul. So we're still on 2, if that's okay.
Yes.
And we're still in board questioning. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, then what we'll do is we'll open this up to public input. We'll, again, procedurally, we'll start with those in favor. If you would come up to the microphone. Seeing none, we'll move on to anyone who's opposed. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to board or any more further comments. No other questions from the board. We'll move on to the worksheet. For item 2. Variance worksheet.
The variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
I agree.
I disagree.
I believe that the variance will be contrary to the public interest. Part of the public interest of the ordinance is to prevent density and overcrowding, and to protect us one from another, and adding 2 more units in an area which is now zoned for half that many units is contrary to the public interest.
I agree with exactly what Tim said. So the variance will be contrary to the public interests. That leaves us at 2 to 3 on the will to will not. We keep going in the spirit of the ordinance.
The request is not in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, the intent of the master plan, and with the convenience, health, safety, and character of the district within which it is proposed. Due to the number of units already exceeding the limit, I do not feel it's in harmony with the spirit of the zoning ordinance or the intent of the master plan.
I agree.
I agree, it's not in harmony with the convenience, health, safety, and character of the area in which it's proposed.
Agree, it's not in harmony.
I agree, it's not in harmony.
0 to 5 on is versus is not substantial justice.
By substantial justice, by granting the variance, substantial justice will not be done. Because again, for all the reasons in terms of the spirit of the ordinance and the public interest, it should not be granted.
I agree, it will, substantial justice will not be done. The detriment to the town and to the neighborhood outweighs any benefit to the applicant.
I agree, as Tim just said, will not.
I agree as well. I agree it will not.
Same here, I agree, it will not.
0 5s. Values the surrounding properties.
The value of the surrounding properties, there's been no testimony with respect to changes in the value of surrounding properties, but to continue to crowd properties together can't have any beneficial value with the surrounding. So I'm going to say it will diminish the value of surrounding properties.
I'm going to say that no data or information has been presented, so there's no reason for me to believe that it would diminish. So I'll say the request will not diminish.
And I'll also say I don't see there's any evidence of any diminished value. I don't believe it will diminish the value of surrounding properties.
I feel the same. I do not believe that it will diminish the value of surrounding properties.
I feel the same. It will not diminish the value of the surrounding properties.
So 1 for will, 4 for will not. Purposes of this paragraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. Item 1, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. I believe that there is a substantial relationship between the purpose of the ordinance and what's happening here. So my answer is yes. And on the proposed use as being a reasonable one, I would vote no. If I'm reading that correctly, I believe I am.
I agree. I don't see the unnecessary hardship to exist.
I believe no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. That would be a no, and I believe the proposed use is a reasonable one, and I vote no on that as well.
I vote no and no.
I've heard no testimony with regard to unnecessary hardship, and I don't find one here. And the proposed use is just similar to prior uses in the same area.
So if I was calculating that correctly for hardship, item 1, I think we have 3 yeses and 2 nos, and on the proposed use being reasonable, there are yeses and 5 nos. So, yeah, so in summary, for public interest, there were 2 votes saying it will be contrary to the public interest and 3 saying it will not. The spirit of the ordinance being in harmony with the master plan, 0 said it was in harmony with the master plan, 5 saying it wasn't. On substantial justice being done, 0 said yes, 5 said no. On an impact to the values of surrounding properties, 1 said there would be an impact, 4 said no. In terms of hardship, it was 3-2 that there was versus wasn't. But the proposed use as a reasonable one was 0 against 5. Item 3.
2 and 3.
2 at this point. We'll move to 3 in a second, but you're right. Item 2 is denied. Would anybody like to make a motion on that?
Did we combine 2 and 3?
No, I think we're gonna hit them with each.
Hit 'em each
Because it's the way
separately,
so it's up on the agenda.
Okay, I make a motion that case Z 25-15 for a variance be denied in a request for Article 300, Section 350-C.4 to permit 57 manufactured housing units in a manufactured housing park where only 28 are allowed. I'm sorry, I read the wrong line. I'll redo that. Article 400, Section 452A1 to permit 57 manufactured housing units in the park where only 28 per the rural zone density restrictions.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No, the motion passes as denial. Let's move on to item 3, under case Z 25-15. Item 3 reads, a variance is requested for Article 300, Section 350C.4, which is new ZO zoning ordinance 350B.4 to permit 57 manufactured housing units in a manufactured housing park where only 28 are allowed. Very similar, but we'll open up the floor to you, gentlemen.
Chairman,
Please.
just to bring something to the board's attention and to the applicant's attention. We talked about this being duplicative. The reason for this is the parent section 452A1 is the zone density. The one that you're hearing now, 350C4 is the manufactured home park standards that refer back to the zone density. But because the board took action to deny number 2, it automatically makes the mobile home standard because it refers back to the regular zone density. You would have a denial, even if you approved 300, it would revert back to the denial on the roll on the current. So it rendered an action. That's why we said it was duplicative, because number 2, I just thought it was necessary to explain that because.
And that's why I asked if 2 and 3 were together.
Yeah.
Actually, it is.
Just to clarify that with the board, like I said, because section 300 is only specific to the mobile home park and it refers back to the zone's density.
Yep.
Your action that you've taken on number 2 would render it obsolete. and actually number 4 as well. Based on that action.
Okay.
Rendering but, I would actually put it out to the applicant and his counsel to find out whether or not they want to go back through that, but, specifically number 2 and number 3, 3 is rendered obsolete.
What we're doing, just play it out, or just what we done?
Basically, it actually makes it void. It voids it out,
It does.
just with the decision on number 2.
Is there anything procedurally we need to do as a board on 3 or 4?
Take in lieu of the denial of 2, that involves 3 and 4.
Your application's denied. Appreciate all the
I
work.
think we should step through it and at least make a motion.
Sheet, worksheets?
No, just step through the motion portion of the variance.
Want me to iterate my motion to include all 3? Okay. Yeah, I make a motion for case Z 25-15 for a variance of 2, 3, and 4. Article 400, section 452A1 to permit 57 manufactured housing units in a park where only 28 per the rural residential density zone restrictions as denied, 2, 3, and 4 with the variances.
Mr. LaRochelle, if you could read the articles and sections of the other 2 into your motion.
Oh, yes. Including number 3, variance, Article 300, Section 350, C4, to permit 57 manufactured housing units in a manufactured housing park where only 28 are allowed. And 4, variance, the Article 300, Section 350, C2C, to permit a new manufactured home to be 3.9 feet within the 30-foot setback.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You did say the word denied in that. You said the word denied in there.
Yeah.
somewhere. Okay.
At the beginning.
Application's denied. Thank you, guys.
5-minute break
Thank you.
before we continue.
Yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Reconvene at 4:15.
You guys don't need me anymore. What? You don't need me anymore. There you go. Oh. Anyway. No.
Why don't you let me go?
No. Tomorrow I'm going to opening day with Richie and the guys anyway, so I got a long day. And I gotta tell you, I'm neck and back, I tell them, I've been doing physical therapy. I've been in physical therapy twice a week. I'm working with a neurosurgeon. Yeah, I've been miserable. And I'm taking freaking asshole by the hand. It's all miserable. Of course, I'm always miserable. I get outside. I play party. Yeah, we missed you too. I'm glad you're home. We've been having a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't, but everybody else has. They have fun, you know.
Quitting us.
They don't have it. Yeah, I'm gonna clear his hand in first. I don't wanna get in trouble. I don't wanna get in trouble with the top brass.
So that secondary one that I told you was obsolete.
Yeah.
And we talked about this right before the meeting. So we both were agreeing that it's redundant when they put it in their application. So 354 is that the overall park density shall not exceed the density allowed in the zone.
When in two, we've already ruled that the variance on density in the rules. So this automatically reverts back to it. So that's what I just didn't want to get. So. You know, what the other way. So he submitted us the one of these, and we've been hammering through the whole, well, the application was in, but. Remember, because we now approved the cost, right? Cases, so we were reviewing them literally in 2 days, you know, like getting through all of the. Yeah, it's just been, be honest with you, it's hard. It's also hard to. I really like to be able to do this, you know, I don't know where they can do this on tonight. Split it up. To be honest with you, you might need part looking at. 2 means month.
Even swap that.
I know.
It's getting down. Take that.
Thanks, man.
This here,
That's something that.
That's the whole.
Time to perfect.
Better.
Thank you for.
Hey, you too. Take care. Thank you for your help. You know, so I don't know. Would you be objective to it? But yeah, whatever we have to do, but. Inch, you know, like the first one.
So you guys gotta finish up on what you're doing here, and then there's another one, and then the one.
Yes.
When we're gonna find.
Right.
What happens if we run out of time?
Well, we just won't start, we won't start any new cases after 10. What'll
Okay, but
happen,
what happens if we start it before 10, but there's only like 50?
we'll finish it.
Oh, you'll finish.
Yeah, yeah.
You won't be.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the first girl, is very nice when. He had no idea about the power. She had no idea. Like, it doesn't seem like she had its monsters in,
No.
like, all. Up here, because the guy picks up with him, and any orders, they say, no, this. It doesn't fly through. It goes like, I said, so go bad for. And she, now, maybe it's her problem. She didn't come by here, but the normal one. But they do get the worksheet. Yeah. When they come in and explains everything, they said, you any questions? Yeah. Let's hear that, and to her defense, and on the planning board, and since there's a worksheet there, and if you have questions, hey, do I need to do this, and that? Yeah. You know? Yeah. It does explain it. She will answer. In fact, I had to do that. I mean, we had times with, even with Tim, but we had to, and I had to take them. The other thing is, yeah. So. You know, I just asking for anybody. I think what it was, they worked in 2 days going through section of the variance and the special exception, and then going through this is printing like longer and longer. This is the perfect example. Okay, that's this first one. It was the main, and it overrides this one's on the main. We don't need to do something right, and that's why it's going. Man, I said, we have a fucking variance. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. I'm glad that audience woke up. Yeah, now, based upon already told us left. It's because we don't have a bullshit step through every single thing. It's like that only many from others. Medias. That's what it's saying. Get up the aliases. It's it is. I mean, if we keep getting cases like we have this many workload in 1 month, we may. No, I'm not saying we have to for sure. Next month looks like this. We're gonna have to start considering going 2 nights a month in order to fit everybody in. Jesus. I do guarantee. Yeah. Immense.
I have meeting minutes for you about. The idea of it was in the. I didn't. Okay, so maybe it's just, I think that was for you. Was you? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I do know, like, business things. Yeah, I just like my worksheet. Yeah, one side wasn't completed, wasn't on it. You had it, I didn't have it. I think they're overloaded. Yeah. Aye. All right. It is what it is. Yeah. Yep. Should.
Get home at 10:30. My husband's like, geez. Is your wife, oh, she's probably just sleeping. Oh, she might miss you by minutes.
Thank you. Oh.
Aye.
Hey. So, what's got this, what's going on with this whole thing like that we gotta. In terms of. This thing with, Cherry Valley with.
Do I need to sit?
Priscilla, Priscilla is requesting the right to know stuff.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, we will send you will copied it too.
Oh, okay. The only thing I seen on that, I probably missed that obviously, was,
Any correspondence that we had with
oh,
emails, letters, talking to John Cronin, this guy that. We lost.
yeah,
We gotta. Do you know anything about it?
I know nothing about that. I don't remember ever seeing that. The only thing I seen in regards to that, they were doing a walkthrough. I think in next week with the planning day.
Is what I. They've done something with the right to know,
Okay,
and I came from Robin. Any correspondence or?
So, okay, it's not back up. There it comes. It's all right. It's a.
9 Dudley. And I was, wondering what happens if they replace it.
Maybe it came from Jessica.
So.
If it's already been started, we'll go through it. If it hasn't been started, we'll still push through the next month. All right, thanks. All right, if we could come to order. Our next case is case Z 25-16. This is a request for a special, it's Brian Underwood and his agent is TMS Architects, Tim Gear. It's a request for a special exception. Special exception is requested for Article 400, Section 401D.28 to permit a lodging house in a lakeshore residential district. Thank you for coming up. Push the button before we start. If you'd like to introduce yourselves and then give us a few minutes to go through.
Yeah, Timothy Jaguar, Tim, TMS Architects, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I'm here to represent Frogwood LLC in this, as you mentioned. I do have, and so I apologize, I don't know protocols, an additional handout that has an aerial satellite just kind of showing the woods. So can I hand that out to you?
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
And then give us a few minutes. We'll take a run through the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right.
Want some more?
No, I'm fine. Please. 60.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that case Z 25-16 is complete.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, accepted as complete. If you would, please, will you state your name again and
Yes, Timothy Jaguar, TMS Architects, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I present before you board, a project that's unique in nature, but not too uncommon. My client is looking to have, non-transient, units, that he could rent potentially to his service staff for a large estate that he has on Hopewell Road. Below the units to rent is a, accessory garage. He hopes to have a large RV, and that's why he's hoping to park it down there. The other equipment that will be in there will be, stuff related to, maintaining the estate, tractors, lawnmowers, and that nature. There plans to be no maintenance facilities or anything like that, other than what you would expect with a residential garage, maybe changing a lawnmower oil or something like that. I met with Norma on this, and I kind of explained what this was and the use of that and the non-transient use, which means basically a bed and breakfast is transient where the rental period is under 30 days. Non-transient is where a rental period is over 30 days. And that's what this would be classified. And she recommended I come for you for a special exemption for a lodging house related to this property. In the zoning ordinance of the town of Alton, lodging house and bed and breakfast are permitted uses of this zone, the Lakeshore Residential, with a special exemption. And so here I am today. We kind of went through the master plan a bit, looking at some of the things and kind of trying to meet the intent of the zoning ordinance and the master plan. I have some, paraphrase things that I took from the master plan that I think this project is in favor or helps the intent of what the master plan suggests to the town. Some of those things are in the town of Alton of jobs. There's about 906 primary jobs in the town of Alton. Out of that, 202 are filled by Alton residents. Economic development and planning should be considered in projects according to the master plan, and we think this helps that with kind of getting, non-transient workforce into the area that kind of help with this estate. Alton grew by 16% population wise, but housing grew 1%. Rents for apartments are up 22% from 2019. And the purchase price increased in the area by 56% since 2019. Homes haven't been getting just more expensive, but they're also getting larger. Lack of starter homes means rental units are not freed up as often. And this is all from the master plan. The master plan comments that zoning, subdivision regulations, and site plan review registrations can have negative or positive effects on town development. And it's important to consider diverse housing. And I think this project accomplishes that, considering Alton's unique housing issues. Also note that in the master plan, there's an article in there called Housing Matters. And it mentions the only tool municipality has for moderating effects of state and regional housing market on Alton families is the zoning ordinance. And the zoning can inadvertently stand in the way by containing restrictions whose benefits don't outweigh their dampening effect on development. And so I think this project and the nature of the lodging house use fits within the spirit of that. I think in my case and my clients, they're not looking to make this an Airbnb. They are looking to rent this out to professionals in the service industry that help them in their estate. Goes on to say in the master plan, waterfront real estate is 11% of the acreage in the town of Alton, but it accounts for 65% of the tax base. And I can go on and on about kind of the benefits that not benefits, what the master plan outlines and how this use case can kind of go within that master plan. There's certain criteria outlined in the zoning ordinance that you need to meet, as you are probably aware, to have a special exemption for this use case on table 402, I believe. And in my letter to the committee, I kind of outline what those are and how we significantly exceed those. So in order for project to be considered, need to have a minimum lot size of 44,000 square feet. We have a proposed lot size of, or existing lot size, I should say, of 850,291 square feet, which is 19 acres or so. The lake setback needs to be 50 feet. This is actually not a lakefront property, even though it's in the Lakeshore Residential Zone. The streetway line is 50 feet, and we are significantly greater than 50 feet. And so this shows the 19 acres, and this here is the farm. We just kind of drive. I know that's from a butter parking here. Not really intended to be a parking area, they just need a tunnel for cars. This site plan is a zoom up because that site is so big, you kind of see what is happening. So from the street setback, which is 50 feet, I have 189 feet. From the rear, the closest property, and I'm gonna bring that to this guy. So that is not the dimension straight back, that's the longer dimension, the shortest dimension to the property. And that rear setback is 258 feet from the 248 feet from the front. And from the parking, very typical one, that's still 200 feet. I guess I'll go right into kind of the aesthetics of the building now. Part of my special exemption well, I'm sure you'll talk about that later, is for a height variance. Here, this is- It looked like an old meeting, house, and that's what my clients want. I don't think that's necessarily, it's different, but it's not out of the ordinary. Otherwise, if you took off my Elvis Delphi, it's a pretty boring building. I think just adding that little piece in the front gives it a lot more architectural vernacular and kind of fits within the context of a New England town. And that's opinion based, obviously, and I'm a little biased being the designer, but it fits within the context of an old townhouse. He is not planning on clear cutting any of the trees. He has this painting in his office of this old, like New England looking schoolhouse townhouse. And it's secluded in the woods with this dirt road and trees all over the place. And he kind of envisions that he wants this building to kind of replicate that and that feeling that that painting gives him. I think it's going to be offset from the road enough that no one's going to see it unless they approach from the driveway. In the back of all the abutters and the sides, it's so well into the woods that no one's going to see it from the woods. And so I don't think his unique taste of trying to make this look like an old schoolhouse is out of the ordinary of questions that fits within the context. So that said, this site also slopes significantly. You kind of see back at the lake over here. Right, this is Coltwell Road going down. And all these contour lines that you see is a very steep hill. This is going to be at the base of the hill. So you're not going to be able to see it anywhere from the other side of it. We kind of doing that, we're still nestled on the back side of that. The reason why I'm explaining this, you kind of see at the approach, if you look at the front, it's actually not that high of a building. It's, you know, underneath. If you calculated the average grade a different way, it would be underneath that height. But because it's sloping towards the back of the lot, I gotta use that average grade that meets that back area. So that's why that belfry is really high. Otherwise, if you took this out, this would look like a single-story ranch sticking in the front yard. So we are asking for a special exemption for heights. The majority of the building is underneath that average grade, even from the worst case scenario. We are about 2 feet under that 35-foot mark. It's just that belfry, spire, whatever you want to call it, define it. It is not defined as a cupola because it's over, I think in your zoning ordinance, 7 feet or
It's 10 by 10.
10 by 10. So it is 10 by 10, so maybe it could be, but my point is there's an article in your zoning ordinance that allows for special exemptions of certain architectural elements, including chimneys, cupolas, spires, belfries, with a special exemption. And so I'm here with my second request for an exemption for height with that belfry. I will say that the amount of acreage in here really lends to the use of kind of staying within the intent of the ordinance and the master plan. Some of the other requirements, section 413 special exemption, which is in my page 3 of my cover letter to the board, states that, you know, the minimum lot size required for a lodging house or bed and breakfast is 10 acres. And we have 19.52 acres. Minimum setback from any lot line is 50 feet, which is greater than the typical setback. And as I demonstrated earlier, that's greater than 50 feet. The total dwelling density for a bed and breakfast or lodging house per your ordinance is 1 dwelling unit per 6.5 acres. 1 dwelling unit per acre. And we have only 3 dwelling units, which equals, you know, per 6.5 acres. So we're not asking to make a giant bed and breakfast that, you know, can house multiple people, make a large racket. It's really just a lodging units for the service staff to occupy and kind of maintain the estate. We had some letters I was made aware of this afternoon from abutters, and they had some concerns, and I wanted to try and address those concerns. You know, they talked about, you know, could the board prevent any, how would this prevent change of uses? And I believe if there was any type of change of use, I would have to come back here, the client would have to come back here to argue that case. You can't change the use. They had some questions related to the garage and the maintenance of vehicles. And it's really, it's not meant to be in like an industrial garage where the mechanic there is working full-time. It's really for storage of lawnmowers and, you know, things that maintain the estate. And the maintenance would be, you know, simple oil changes or things related to that nature and not, you know, heavy constant construction equipment maintenance. The parking area is really a turnaround for the large RV. That was one of their concerns. And, you know, they also questioned the use of the lodging house and, you know, speaking with Norma, and she thought that was the right designation for this project, and hence why I'm here. Parking in that back area should not be seen by anyone. If you look at the site, this is Hopewell Road. This is There's some comments where is this going to become a parking lot? It's not intended to, but my point is it's so far in from the road, probably about 300 feet or so, that you're not going to see anything happening back here through the woods and the wood. There were some questions about the sprinkler systems that was noted in my cover letter. I will note that the fire department reviewed this, and their comments were there were no specific current concerns regarding the use or this project. They said that we will need to have a building number essentially assigned at some point for 911 purposes. And they will review the plans as is typical for smoke alarms and fire alarms. The sprinkler system is a thing not necessarily needed to be reviewed by you, but it's a code issue that I'll work with Norma as we get through the building permits. And in order to make this a lodging house, this will need to be sprinklered by the standard set forth by the International Building Code. And that is a professional stamped person that designs and maintains that. There were some questions on, you know, sprinkler systems in a residential and the storage of that. I will say I have some familiarity with large residences and sprinkler systems, and I know I've done 20,000 square foot plus houses with sprinkler systems, and they basically come down to about 1,500 to 2,000 gallons of storage, which is, you know, oil tank in your basement. If you don't have well pressure, but if you have the well pressure, it can be designed with that. And these are all things that will be verified and stamped by the sprinkler professional. So that will help in the case of any life safety egress issues with this and meet the, you know, the most restrictive code requirements required by this type of use. There was some concern about stormwater runoff. I will say again that it's a 19.5 acre lot, and we are occupying less than 2.5% of that lot with all paving, all building, all patios, everything. We are also going to have a professional engineer involved with this project, Horizons engineer. Used to be White Mountain. I'm sure some of you guys know Jim Rhines. But his company or Horizons engineers will be the civil engineer developing the septic plans that will have to be approved by the state and DES and all that stuff, as well as developing, you know, drainage and grading plans. And, you know, that might include a stormwater management plan, depending if it's, you know, warranted by their need or not. They had some questions about the town road, and I was informed that that's not an issue. There's access off of Hopewell Road. And there were some other concerns about the clients, my clients having the right to expand this to have more Airbnbs. But again, I'm here for this project, which is 3 units. And if I had any type of expansion, I believe I'd have to come back to the board. They are not planning any type of expansion. Again, they're just trying to make an economical workforce, you know, housing for them, and also have some storage down below for their use. Yeah. I think that was it for my spiel.
All right, Tim. Tim, thank you. Let's open it up to questions from the board.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for a well-prepared application and explaining very well drawn plans, and and presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
How many people at max with the bunkhouse hold?
Right now, it's 3 service staff and they're single. So 3,
And it's gonna stay 3 bedrooms?
3 bedroom, yes.
Isn't one of them a double? There's 2 beds in there?
No. Verify.
Yes.
Essentially, this is the. And renderings here that kind of will show you where we are. So this is the front approach and it kind of shows you that wooded feel that he wants. He's not looking to make this thing visible from the road. But when you come into this entrance here, that is right here. So you have this corridor, and you have a second means of a little shared patio. Essentially, you have laundry area that's shared on one side. This is one unit right here. That area, living room, bedroom, simple shower. Then you get to this one. That is one unit, single bedroom in that area, central bathroom, living area. This guy is a bigger dining area. And then you have this one, all of the others. You have a bedroom, little living area, and a little dining area, and the back. And then for the basement, it's pretty simple. I think one question actually between the butters, actually, where from at 400 finished feet, 300 from the box, downstairs.
Is that the RV?
That?
Is that the RV, that white? A little bit like a church.
So where is the owner's estate?
It's across the street in Hopewell Road.
So I'm looking at this map and this is right here. So where is he across, is he here?
He is in this area.
Okay, so I'm pretty familiar with Hopewell Road and I'm trying to figure out where this property is.
Yeah, it's at the end, 140-ish, I believe is the address of the estate. I'm not quite sure the exact number.
Where is it again?
Hopewell Road?
Yeah, I know, but where on Hopewell Road is this? Is this in the middle of Hopewell Road?
No, it's at the end.
The end.
This is actually the overall. That's owned by.
It's kind of like out on a peninsula, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the lake.
Yeah.
But that's his property.
Yes.
That's the lakefront property.
This is Hopewell. This one over there.
And what house number was it? Would you say 140? 142?
And this is across the street.
So our project is. So you can kind of see here, that's as it's like. This goes up at a very steep hill, and we didn't want to build this on top of it. We're trying to kind of make this smooth, but it's, about 800 feet, I'm guessing, or so down the street where that curb cut would be, at the bottom of kind of this valley area, where that curb cut. That answer the.
Okay, so this is Brickyard Cove right here. And your client is right here,
Yeah, the map kind of cuts it off, but
okay?
that cove.
And this is this comes out to Roberts Cove? Where is Roberts Cove?
That I don't know, I'm not familiar with. the cove.
Well, it abuts Hopewell.
Is that over here? That'd be Roberts Cove Road right here.
I don't know, it doesn't look like it because look at the angles. I mean, I don't get it.
Well, Roberts Cove Road comes, and by it, runs around it, it curves around it, then Hopewell begins there.
Right. That's Bondor Island.
Yeah.
That's the cove. That's Robert's right over there.
There's his state. The property is all this wooded area right here. See,
Where's the estate?
right there. I don't know what cove this is, right?
That's Brickyard Cove, okay. So this 142 was Gary Bear's house.
Yeah.
That's correct. It was, no, that was Gary's, okay. All right, so that's this here, and this is that big piece, and then do you know what road this is here? Could be a drive, I guess.
You speaking about this one, Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that Clay Point Road? Might be Clay Point.
That could be. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that is Clay Point.
well, good, I live there, okay. I'm just trying to
Okay, so
figure
where are
it
you, Frank, on it?
out. Okay, all right, so, I've got it now, all right. Okay, thank you. Right. Right now, that's all they're gonna put onto the property.
That's all we're asking for right
Tim, I'm gonna ask a question. It's not of you, but of.
Yeah.
And I just don't know the answer. We don't have a definition for a lodging house.
Yeah, we do.
I thought it was just I went through the same thing. I thought it was just the requirements of what happened.
No, it's a building where the owner or a living manager is present overnight during the period of rental, in which the rooms are rented with or without meals to 3 or more, but not exceeding 10 persons for non-transient use, which Tim pointed out a couple of times.
So you can have up to 10 people in a building. As long as they're non-transient, meaning more than 30 days. What was the first part?
A building where the owner or a living manager is present overnight during the period of rental in which the rooms are rented with or without meals.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I will say in my cover letter, I kind of addressed that
Mhm.
I'm considering the employees to be live-in managers of the property as they,
So you're gonna play that as having the residents be the manager.
yeah. They're essentially all managers. They're employees of the owner.
That's kind of clever. But that's okay. Thank you for answering it that way. I'm just wondering, not for your specific project, but I'm wondering what we're opening up here.
Yeah.
Right, if we can have a building with 10 people that are renting in a building that kind of looks like a church for a period of 30 days in the lakeside region, even if it is near Frank's house, we're probably impacting the value of the houses there. Which is, to your point, you gave me the exact numbers, I wrote them down, it's 60% of our tax revenue.
Well, this doesn't really set a precedent. This runs with the property, and
That's
what
right.
we're addressing here is a request for a specific project on a specific piece of property.
Mhm.
And the neighbor couldn't come and say, well, you let my neighbor do it, so I can do it. The precedent doesn't work that way.
Every
Understood,
case is individual.
understood, but it does bring us down a path.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, so the next case would have to come in front of us again, I'm
Of
with you,
course.
right? Okay,
And they would also have near to the size of the lot that they have. They have a good sized lot there in order to do this.
and there's no requirement that these people, or I didn't mean to say it that way. There's no requirement that the 10 people that are in the building, up to 10,
Yeah.
have to work across the street. Or even have to work in town.
No. Oh, but it kind of goes to the master plan that you're getting residents with a tax essentially here. Helping them out kind of with housing units, which is in shortage in not only Alton, but all of New Hampshire and New England.
No, I got that written down too, right? They're growing by 16%. Towns and the
Yeah.
housing's by 2%. No, I'm with you. I mean, I hear your argument.
I mean, technically, if you, to answer your question with the 10 persons, just to clarify, essentially it's a bedroom, so it could be shared by a couple. So the max in this case, I think, would be six people.
Six.
Yeah, and I understand for this specific case, Tim, that he's only asking for the special exception for this. Yeah, I get it.
And they're gonna be employees of the owners,
Correct.
full time.
Anyhow, thank you. You made it up.
Makes sense.
What makes sense? What makes sense?
That the employees would be staying there as for the estate full-time.
Yeah.
For such a large estate,
Mhm.
instead of traveling back and forth and from other various towns or states
Yeah,
to stay permanently
and that was, you
at
know,
the residence while they're employed.
yeah, which in my letter I covered, although minimal, it's 3 less cars traveling every day down the
Mhm.
road.
Right.
But that's not really what we're creating here, right? What we're actually creating, unless we confine it with some limitations, is the opportunity to have that building house 10 people
Correct.
as a
Up
rental
to- up to
property,
10.
Yeah.
as it's a 10-family house.
Yeah.
Well, it could be.
Yeah, one question, and I don't mean to answer a question with a question, but for you guys is on that use, if it's, you know, can be designated as a lodging house and bed and breakfast in the ordinance, are they two separate things? Like, would you be approving the use of just the lodging house, or is it like combined either or?
It would just, a bed and breakfast, much different criteria.
I agree.
It would
I was
be
kind of just
lodging house.
questioning kind of
Yeah,
his
it'd be a
point.
lodging. That
Okay.
would be the.
And that's what they're asking for. I'm just,
I wonder why we list them together then in the chart.
that's why I was asking.
But yeah, but that is my, I mean, to the board, that is something I think we should think about, that there could be, you know, someone who doesn't live across the street, who owns a piece of property, can now come in and say, I want to create a lodging house that has 10 apartments in it. You know, underneath 35 feet, you know, all the setbacks,
That
like
would
you
be
said,
different precedents.
it would be a different precedent, but,
That'd be different, yeah.
well, if
This-
they want the one-off case, but.
This is directly involved with the main property. And what they're asking for is a lodging house to put in the staff to stay at that, and it can be a condition put on there that it's not open to rentals.
Mhm.
Stipulation is not, it's not Airbnb. It's not renting out, it's strictly for the working staff.
One of the things, are they paying rent? Because you mentioned it as rentals.
I'm not quite positive on the contract. I mean, from my client standpoint, I prefer not to put a concession on if they pay rent or not. I mean, that's a contractual obligation between him and his employee.
Thank you. That helps. I
But they
guess I'm-
are non-transient. I mean, he hires them, you know, they're not there for a couple days and leave. They're there for years.
Yeah, bed and breakfast specifically states no, well, I'll just read it rather.
Bed and breakfast requires less than 30 days.
Owner or occupied single-family dwelling where the owner or a living manager is present overnight during the period of rental. Where 1 to 5 guest rooms are offered for transient use for overnight accommodation and a morning meal for compensation. With no provision for cooking or warming food in guest rooms. So like if anyone stayed at a bed and breakfast, you're basically getting a room, you go downstairs. You might have a continental breakfast of sorts, but you don't have any ability to cook food in your, which is much different than this lodging.
So let me restate my comment then. This will be 10 apartments, up to upwards of 10 apartments
No.
in a building.
No,
Because you-
not 10 o'clock.
It's all him, yeah. There's the if we grant this as requested, in the building you're requesting, right now you have 3 apartments. The zoning ordinance allows up to 10. You've covered everything. You've covered the 19 acres, covering the 10 acres, the 50-foot, all that. The building could have up to 10 apartments in it, rented for at a minimum of 30 days going
You could.
forward.
I could
So you
be,
could have 20 people, go to your point, 2 people to a bedroom.
yeah.
Well, it'll be 10.
Well, the way the
Sorry,
ordinance is worded
sorry.
though, it says 10 people.
10,
We're just looking,
right.
it doesn't say, you know, dwelling units or however you want to, it's 10 people.
10 people.
Which is a little gray, but you know, does that include 10 rooms, single or? Yeah, I don't know how that's
Okay.
enforced.
So it could be, it's kind of a multifamily house, it's
Yeah.
to some
That's
degree.
a
But
different
okay, thank you.
classification. You can't.
But in this case, just to reiterate, it's just 3 units. We're not asking for 10. I get your point, but
So we would have to, yeah, I mean, we could limit that. I'm with you.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You're saying that this is non-transient? Is that
Yes.
what the
Yeah,
owner is saying?
making sure I understand the term correct. Non-transient means more than 30 days. Transient means under 30 days, I believe. And someone correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Is that what it says? Yeah, more than 30 days. Okay, I have another question. The steeple, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
Okay, spear. It's a 10 by 10?
At the base, it's 10 by 10. It actually narrows up. Believe me, here. That portion there.
Okay, and there are windows, is that,
Windows up there.
that it's what?
Louvers.
Just louvers?
Yeah, make it look like an old belfry. If we put mechanical system in there, it'd be great. You could use the louvers, but honestly, I think it's just gonna be an ornamental thing because no one's
It
gonna
wouldn't
want
be
to go up
used
there.
as a viewing area.
No, there's no access up there.
Okay.
It's just pure ornamental
Pure
facadism, as I call it
ornamental.
in architecture.
Maybe it's some lighting, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're trying to make this an economical build and not break the bank on it, but make it nice. And so this was kind of a gesture to the architectural and the syntax on the outside without having to, put a staircase up there for viewing for his employees. No glass up there. It's just the flat ceiling.
There's no glass?
Correct.
6. So at the grade in the back of the building to the top of the cupola, what is that dimension? I know you're taking the average of the whole slope. But what? Right. I guess my question was, what was the actual height from the grade in the back of the building to the cupola itself? Because you're going with the average grade, which would be midway.
It's in you.
Is it in here?
Mm. 47 feet.
But that's from the average grade. That's not from, I'm asking the actual,
Right.
from the back to the top of the cupola.
On one
Not
side, the
slope.
highest side is 54 feet on the east side. But the average is 47 just for the tower.
That's the lightning rod.
Yeah.
Is it?
I don't
The
know.
lighting rod.
I don't think the
we
lighting
are
rod is.
building a column structure.
Mhm.
I think you probably want to have something on there for lightning protection. Maybe not, but that's something that I wanted to talk with a lightning expert at some point and, get. I wasn't gonna do an antenna that's 35 feet tall, but something that would, whatever the lightning specialist recommends.
Bronze rooster?
Maybe. I'm sorry. Could be a frog for Frogwood.
Frog? Hmm.
And you're saying it was our recommendation that we call it a lodging house.
Correct.
Thank you.
Found the definition that existed. No.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
Everybody okay if we open it up to public input?
Yeah.
For KC 25-16, we'll again, just operationally, we'll start with any in favor? You come up and to the table.
Okay.
Yeah, please come up. Okay, I'll read that. I just have the one. Just the one.
Brickyard Cove Road, which is off of Hopewell, we come down
Hopewell from the Roberts Cove. There's a road that goes up, Brickyard Cove. It was not a public road. The town doesn't own it. But, it does come off of it. I have two questions. One of this is that the Barrett property, when it was originally subdivided with, this whole development, all the houses that were across the
Excuse me.
streets.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you get a little closer? If you wouldn't mind, we recording it. My apologies.
No, that's all
You were
right.
on a roll too, and I'm sorry.
No, I could start over.
Thank you. Could you restate your name?
What's that?
Could you restate your name?
Sure. My name's Randall Kale, and I live at 33 Brickyard Cove Road. And I was formerly at 96 Hopewell Road, which is probably pretty much across the street from where they're talking about putting this in. But my concerns, or the two concerns, and I'm not sure whether they're concerns or not, but has anyone reviewed this in reference to the covenants that Bob Bear put in when he developed this whole area? That's a big thing because Bob Bear couldn't even sell his property because of the fact that the original buyers wanted to make some changes or, turn a couple of the houses into lodging, and there's a lot of covenants that go along with that property.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
That's a civil matter, not something that the board needs to verify, but be aware of. I think that's something we ought to have in that meeting.
Because I know that those covenants are, go ahead.
No, there were restrictive covenants specifically that Bob and Sandy Bear had for all 10 of the lots that were on Hopewell, the Hopewell property.
Mhm.
And actually, they're right here in here, but I'm not so sure that this board would be dealing with the association or the covenants. That would be a civil matter. This is just the zoning of, I think we're only here for the property itself. If the owner has violated one of the covenants, then the other owners of that are in the restrict would be required to litigate that if it was not done properly, I believe.
I guess
I think I'm right on that, but I don't think it's in our jurisdiction. That's what I'm saying.
I understand that. However, if they are not in compliance with the covenants, you're spending a lot of time to approve something that may not be apt to be, that may not be able to be approved.
At their peril. At their peril. They're doing this at their peril. If we approved this, they would be doing it at their peril, in terms of violating, just as if it was a homeowners association or, any kind of a, covenants or right of ways or things of that nature,
I know, I just, as I said, I just value the time of the board and I don't.
I don't think it's in our jurisdiction.
No. But if if he finds out that they're not allowed to do it because of the covenants, then you're deciding on something that doesn't apply.
Correct.
Which seems like, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not being rude here, but that seems a little bit like the cart before the horse. Or the horse before the cart, it's, if you want to get approval on this and you have to have approval on this first, because everything else just go, if there's one thing on those covenants that kills his proposal, then you guys are all sitting here ready to vote on and make this an accepted.
We're required to do zoning and ordinance regulations, okay?
Yeah.
Anyone on the Hopewell Road or anyone on any street could come to us with that, but our jurisdiction has nothing to do with the association rules or, whatever restrictive covenants that were put on the property itself. I don't believe. So can he come here? I mean, can the owner come here and get the required zoning approval? I believe he can. Without us worrying about the restrictive covenants. It would then be up to the other homeowners, I guess, to say you're not in compliance with the covenants.
With the covenants. Okay. The only other question I had, if I may, is there any, are you planning on any, deeded access to the lake from this, even across, because you've got the two big houses that the gentleman bought? Okay. Gentlemen, that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're still on the in favor side. If anybody else on the in favor side? Anybody on the opposed? Yes, sir, please.
Come on right up, please, so we can hear you.
Yeah, if you could state your name, please, for the record.
I just want to state and go to 20,000 feet here for a minute. The owner of the property of the back lot, what we refer to as the back lot, the 19 acres, owns an estate on the other side of the street. It's a large estate. You all know it. You've finally figured out that it was Gary Bear's old house next to Bob Bear's house. He is a very dedicated person to his employees. He takes care of his employees and realizes, quite frankly, that having employees drive distances, particularly during the winter, stinks. And he's trying to do the right thing for his employees. That's the bottom line here. And in order to develop the back parcel that he owns, he is trying to do the right thing. And we came to the town of Alton to ask, what do you call this? Because clearly it's not something normal, okay? So when we were advised to come before you with the lodging house, that was not our choice. That was basically the closet that we were put in, per se, in this case. And would we call it a lodging house? No, we would call it a house that is going to house, basically 3 employees. This is a 3-bedroom employee housing unit that is going to be, frankly, very nice and provide on-site housing for his employees. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. This is a large estate. I can't imagine, and my background is real estate appraisal, I can assure you that when and if he ever sells this property, the back lot will certainly go with the front lot. He's not going to cut this up. Large estate owners don't cut their properties up and subdivide. This is not one of those situations. So I just wanted to try to get back up to 20,000 feet. We're not talking about 10 units. We're not talking about 20 people living in this place. We're not talking about a parking lot with bright lights and everything else. This is simply employee housing with storage underneath. It's as simple as that.
Mr. Chairman. Brian,
Yes.
how are you?
Good.
Good. So you're not the owner.
I am not the owner. I am the manager of the LLC that owns all of the real estate holdings in Alton.
Okay. So you're not the owner.
I am not the owner. I am the manager.
Okay. Do we have the owner's signatures on anything here?
Well, I'm authorized to act on behalf of the
But
owner.
we don't know that.
You do, because there are documents that are registered with the state. My name is on the deed.
No. I gotta have it here, that you've been authorized by the owners of this property to speak for them.
Okay,
And
well,
for him to speak to.
I'm happy to provide, our legal counsel is here. He can provide all of those details. But I am in fact authorized because I am the manager of the LLC.
Yeah,
which
it
is,
says here you're the manager.
that's correct.
Okay.
not a single person. So that company, whether it was, Walgreens or Walmart or whatever, right, has certain employees that manage that property asset. In this case, Brian is the manager that owns the estate. Technically, he can consider based on that company. And we have the document stated that kind of like that as, 11 kind of anonymity, owned by him, actually owned by a company that,
Just gonna reiterate that we're in public input right now.
So if the board needs
Okay.
any further clarification, we're happy to provide that to you and you can make any decisions subject on that authorization. Rob Miller is counsel to property owner and also to Frogwood.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Rob Miller from Sheehan Finn. I am legal counsel to Frogwood. I was involved in the preparation of the LLC documents. I can represent to the board as an officer of the court that Brian Underwood is the authorized manager and he is authorized to bind Frogwood on all legal documents. I'm aware of that power. The Secretary of State's office has that power as well. It's readily available for you to find it. But for purposes of tonight, I can represent to you as an officer of the court that is the case.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So I've said what I wanted to say. I just wanted to take us back to
Sure.
20,000 feet and explain what the owner of the property really wants to do and why he's doing it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the information.
Anyone else from public? I guess I should probably quickly read these two documents as they came in with questions.
Well, they might very well be here. If we,
Okay, let me
Right.
ask.
yeah,
Tom and Cheryl Dryer?
anybody in opposition, we can have one.
Yeah, please.
Come on up.
I assume you'll make the letter a piece of the record.
I think we
Somehow
all
I'm not
have
going to
it.
go through item by item.
We do all have it here.
Yeah. My name's Tom Dryer. My wife is here as well, Cheryl Dryer. We live over on Lake Point Road. We abut the back of the property. And as the letter says, we dearly love the Lakeshore area. We're retired here. Love the nature, love the beautiful homes. This seems like a real anomaly that's coming into the neighborhood, if you will. A little bit of discussion about economic impact and all that type of stuff. It's much brouhaha as far as I'm concerned. The estates plural, there's two large pieces of land owned by Frogwood right across the street. Quick question, why not build it there? Don't know, large properties. This was submitted as a lodge, but you get into it and you all of a sudden start seeing storage, garage. I was wanting to ask about fire protection, not because of the lodge, but because of equipment, fuel, so forth and so on. I don't know how much equipment's going to be outside, those kinds of things. It's a barn that happens to have some lodging above, as far as I'm concerned. They have some kind of maintenance operation on the west end of the property now. It's a disaster area with equipment and backhoes and backhoe, I think. So I don't know what it's going to look like if these pictures are factual and there's not a lot of equipment and not a lot of stuff stacked up. I guess that's one picture. I don't have any confidence that'll be the case because of what their need is. I didn't realize that it was a RV storage. I guess that's the case. Hopefully that's all it'll be in the future. But what it does to the neighborhood and so forth is a concern. A gentleman mentioned the covenants. And I agree that's probably a civil matter, but if you go with the intent of zoning and what the intent of Bear was for the properties in the area, how wonderful and beautiful they are, I think it conflicts. And I think your challenge or the questions you ask yourselves, does it meet this criteria, that criteria? I don't think it meets the intent of the zoning of a lakeshore region. it's a building to put 3 workers in and work on lawnmowers. Bang. And I think it would be terribly regrettable. If you felt you had to approve it, I would dearly request that there's a whole bunch of criteria or restrictions, number of people, type of equipment outside, those kinds of things, number of units, that it really be truly contained to what is stated. And that's now and forevermore, because if it does get sold, who knows what happens, right? Or if it decision to expand. So it's a concern, and we have anywhere from eagles to the protected woodcock to the thrush, deer and wildlife, and it's wonderful. I can't stop all development. That's not my intent, but this just seems like a terrible use of a beautiful piece of property. And lastly, I did mention the drainage, the wetlands, the seepage, the vernal pools and all. You really need to look at it. It crosses through all of that. It's not in the, I don't know if the new designated wetlands have been put on the map. And so they have the setback from the wetland perimeter, I believe. But everything else that's there is very sensitive environment. So I'll leave it there, and it would make us very unhappy in our retirement home, light and noise and equipment and so forth. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me ask, there's another letter here from Tony and Karen Amaneko. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Simonenko, and we live in Massachusetts, but we bought property that abuts this property. So we're just behind it, actually. And you've answered a number of the questions, so thank you for doing that. Appreciate it. I did note a couple of things, Chairman. I noticed that you had mentioned about maybe putting requirements around some things, and I don't know the process to do that or how that works exactly, but I would like to see that, as I think Mr. Dwyer also would like to see that if it is approved, just so that, as we all know, if things sell or things change, without some of that, it could maybe lose the intent and become something different. So I would like to definitely see that. Mentioned that also it is quite a large plot of land, and I would also not like to see suddenly there be 3 more lodging houses or 2 more, or however many you could fit on the property, right? And so, again, maybe some requirements around that, or maybe you would have to come back and have that approved. Is it?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be limited to 1 already. Okay. I guess what I'm saying is, so if they approve 1, kind of, I think what also you're maybe referencing, which is that, you're setting a precedent. So why couldn't they come back and ask for a second one? And if you already approved 1 and he's met all the requirements to do 1, well, he would still meet all the requirements to do 2 because he's got 19, right, acres. So I personally wouldn't want to see 2 or 3, because then you're really changing what that property is all about, in my opinion. So I would like to see if there's something that can be some kind of a limit. If it's approved once. Answered a lot of the questions about the RV. I also didn't know there was gonna be an RV there, so that's helpful. And then the last thing that I mentioned was regarding the cupola. It's pretty high, it's pretty, and I'm not sure being behind, and I understand that this is going to be back on the property so that you can't really see it from Hopewell, but then there's those of us behind, so.
Yeah. See that.
Yeah. So I own the summit. I'll just say, so I look down, but I don't have a house there. It's all woods. But so I just, would like to have that considered, and aesthetics are important on both sides. So maybe it's approved, but don't go above the 35 feet, or don't maybe only go 5 feet above, or, why does it have to be another 13 feet above plus a lightning rod? I just question if that's needed, really. Sure, of course, of course.
They could be here, say, ASAP. So it's not out of that case, I think it is a all area. So I get your point, but making it.
Sure.
Having that height really kind of, the numbers are big, but again, I'm biased, but getting it, feeling that height makes that.
Perhaps you could put the plat up and just show us where her property is relative to what you're,
I can show you.
that'd be great. And how far is your home from that property line? Just on the property?
You're on Clay Point Road. Yes, yes.
At the cul-de-sac, you live on Clay Point, right? Or by the cul-de-sac?
You're at the cul-de-sac, so she abuts, she goes up the hill. She's,
We cleared the land, so you can see where we cleared the land because it sticks out. Yep, this is us. We cleared here. This is real.
Yeah, yes, in fact, this is in here.
Yeah, this, come on. I wanna go.
She's on this property right here.
Yeah, so Norm is saying it's lot 21-1-3 .
Yeah, 21-1-3-0.
Yeah.
You're,
Is that where
That's-
you're gonna build your home? Where that clearing is?
Yes.
And this is the hill?
Yeah, this whole thing kind of goes up that hill. Actually, right.
This is pretty steep,
Oh, yeah,
actually, behind my
Not
property.
even able to see it.
So I didn't realize where the orange dot was exactly, so this is helpful to me. I didn't see this. I just had the picture, so I wasn't sure how far over it was. But, and this is what we've cleared, but we haven't, finished.
Right.
It's just really the initial,
And you- like,
yes.
And, he still. The property. And that roof buffer that you have. Maybe
Tim, elevation wise, the structure is at 550 feet, 54 feet, is that correct? And hers, I don't know if you have it further out. Yeah, okay.
it goes down precipitously.
It does.
It does.
It's actually very.
It
Very
goes down
steep,
precipitously.
very steep
Very-
So doesn't, 21-1-2, he abuts it, the previous, person that was in, and that's his property right here.
It slopes down.
It slopes down to Clay Point Road down
All the
here.
way down.
And this is the water over here.
Okay.
This is the lake.
So that'd be way up above you.
Right, so that's
She-
where,
He's way up.
Way up
yeah.
there.
I'm way up here.
I don't think there's any physical way you would be able to see
Right.
I don't think there's any
Not
physical
way
way you would be able to see from, your home and, I'm sorry? Unless you were at the top of your property, right, right. I don't think.
Frank, would they be able to see that building from the water?
This building here?
Yeah, the building he's proposing. Will that be able to?
See how?
No,
I don't see how.
no, no,
I don't think so.
no, they wouldn't be able to
Thank you.
see.
I think it's
see
pretty
from the water.
secluded. Right.
But the water's. That
Water's here. Water's
Water-
Water's here.
but it's also up here too. You can see it.
It comes over.
Way around.
Yeah, exactly.
So you'll see it from this side of the point.
I see.
I don't think you could have.
I'm not even asking for her lot. So you will be able to see that the house you're building from the water up from this side.
Maybe.
Okay.
See water.
Right. Yeah.
150
Mark,
feet from the opposite.
On either side, Brickyard Cove or out to the Broads, I don't think you could
You
ever
won't
see
see
it.
it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, front of really.
That's the view from set, so that's standing, in front of the curb.
Mhm.
Looking out to the water. Winter time, kind of tough to see the water at all.
Mhm.
Maybe you can see it, but it's screened enough, in my opinion, that you go in another 200 feet.
Right.
So
Pretty
there's
hard
a
for us to
difference
see
of
it.
opinion, right? Mr. Dryer thinks maybe we'll see it. Right. Thank you.
So,
Other,
I'm sorry.
no,
Um, so, Mr. Underwood made a point of saying that, this is a big estate, it's owned by a person that wants to stay anonymous and, and whatnot. But that doesn't preclude him from selling this because he's keeping this as a separate property.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think what you guys are looking for is to approve this use with, the use of. the
Conditions.
property. Yeah, thank you.
With conditions.
With conditions, if you prove it, but that's what you would be approving is not who's gonna sell it later or who's gonna do that. And that's something that your ordinance, I mean, this is opinion based again, that, you can kind of play with and look at how you want to restrict that further down the road.
Mhm.
But I know some people commented, what prevents, people from us, so to say, theoretically coming and saying, hey, we're gonna do another one. You guys do, because that's why you have that special exemption.
But we can't control that lot being sold privately, versus the estate. The estate could be sold, that lot could be sold separately,
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. You're right for the letter of the law, but I think in
and it would be
context,
sold as a lodge.
it could.
It could.
I mean, I don't know if
Right.
you can put a restriction on if it can or
Right.
not, but I mean, I think if you have it said as a use, that's that use forever. I believe your zoning ordinance has things in there, and Norma could probably comment on that, like, if you have a change of use, it's a whole thing, I think.
The special
Yeah.
exception does state in this zone that you need a minimum of 10 acres.
That'd be
So
changed.
that's going to answer a lot of somebody's questions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
they have to come back.
They'd have to
They
come
would have
back.
to come back.
That,
If
that
it got
comes,
sold.
yeah, that comes up very frequently. I think it may answer a couple of questions, but hypothetically, a person takes a building and wants to turn it into a florist. Well, everyone's concern is what is that florist shop going to be later if that business is sold? I don't want them working on diesel trucks at the florist shop now. They would have to come before us for it's a different use.
Change of use.
Yeah.
So they have to go before the planning board and all through this process again, and we need to know what they're going to do with that property. So it isn't just, this is a checkbox and everyone's got carte blanche to do whatever they want.
That's
That-
correct.
But that would also be true if they were to split this lot into two lots, one being 10 acres, the other being 9. It would
Yeah.
come back to us in, who's to say what would happen, but we've done a lot of lot splitting
Yes.
before. So the likelihood that we would probably say yes to splitting it, who knows, right? I don't
And they
even
got
want to,
wetlands to deal with.
I don't even want to speculate.
So.
But we gotta, the speculation piece we should probably move away from. What you're asking for is to put a lodging house on that lot. You got the 19 acres, you covered it, you covered the 50-foot setback. The one thing you told me or us was that waterfront property is 11% of the land, but 65% of the tax base.
From what I got from the master plan.
Oh, yeah, understood. And the master plan is something that we're trying to use
Yeah.
to guide us.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you saying that. The other thing I'll say is, right, wrong, and different. We put this in as a lodging house, which allows us up to 10 persons, right? In likelihood, you probably would be 5 couples, right? Or it could be 10 individual, but who knows, right? And and I'll just give you the definition for a multifamily. A single structure containing a minimum of 3, but no more than 6 individual dwelling units. So this is something that would be bigger than what we would have called a multifamily house that you're putting on this lot across the street. Okay.
Yeah, and I think when you get to like code wise, like outside, but there's international building code we gotta do. Calling a multifamily something different where I think you have to have separate, heating systems and utility connections and, something that you could basically.
I'm not so sure about that, but I appreciate,
I
I
could
appreciate
be
your
wrong.
question. Yeah, but I'm not so sure it actually needs to have different
Separate things, okay.
utilities for
Yeah, I
everything,
guess
probably for meters for electric and so forth. But I'm with you. So I appreciate you saying that. We're still in the public piece. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against? Okay. Oh, certainly. Oh, could you put the microphone onto green?
Sure.
Thanks.
So once again, I'm Rob Miller from Finney, representing Frogwood, and I know the hour's late and I'm not going to be long. I want to focus on a couple of things, and that is, once again, that this definition of a lodging house is getting us tangled up, right? Because it has an impression that it's something that it's not. As Mr. Underwood said, I mean, and the zoning ordinance gives us no other options. Like, we went looking to see if we could call it anything else. We met with Ms. Dietrich, like, there is no other category that works.
Multifamily house.
But that's not what this is, right? That's not what this is. This is staff housing for 3 people. And the plan says what it says. We're here to get approval for this plan, not for a hypothetical plan with more people for different purposes. We've represented on the record what this is. The plan's before you. You're approving this plan. If it changes, that's a different plan, and that requires different approvals.
Exactly.
So, not to belabor that point, but just to go back to where we are. Your ordinance, in order to approve a special exception, and for better or worse, we're stuck with lodging house, right? But lodging house is permitted by special exception. And in order for us to get that special exception, we have to satisfy the 7 criteria in section 520 and the additional 5 criteria in section 413. And we believe we have satisfied all of those criteria. If the board needs clarification on any of them from me right now, I don't want to go through them all again, given how late the hour is. But if there is any question on any of them, I'm happy to answer anything further. But those are the 7 plus 5 that we need to focus on. And if we meet them, it's thumbs up. And if we don't meet them, it's thumbs down.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Since any other public input? Back to the board. Anything further from the board? Should we go to the worksheet?
Sure. Sure.
A plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B. Yes.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
Appropriateness, the specific site is an appropriate location for this use.
I agree.
I agree. The location is adjacent to lakefront properties and is a good place for residents, for staff.
For the zoning requirement, for the zoning book, I agree.
I agree as well.
Frank,
It's up to you, Frank.
if you want to.
Oh, okay.
If you want to be skipped again.
Factual evidence is not found that the property value in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land uses. The size of the property, the home that's the lodge that's going to be built, the area that it's going to be built on, will do nothing but probably enhance the property values in the area.
I agree.
I disagree. I struggle with the comments from Mr. Dryer and also from Tony. You know, I believe if the neighbors are feeling, you know, that this may be an impact on their property, I believe that that might be the case. And unfortunately, you know, having a lodging house, and I agree with the lawyer, I mean, that does have a connotation that, you know, maybe to some is positive, not to everybody. To me, it has a negative connotation. So I'm going to vote the opposite. I'm going to say there's evidence is found that property value could be reduced.
I agree with Frank. There's no valid objection. I understand that there are concerns. And people are concerned, and that's normal, and that's a good thing to be able to answer the questions that they've had on the property, but there's no demonstrable fact that I see that that there was a valid objection. I'm sorry. I skipped.
Same answer probably works for you.
Yes, the same answer works for me there too. So I agree. Sorry about that, guys.
And
It's
you,
getting late.
that's all right. And you agree, just to be clear.
I agree with Frank.
Okay. In regards to the value to that point, factual evidence is not found that the property value in the district will be reduced. So I agree with Frank as well.
Okay, so that's 1-4.
With respect to abutters' objections, I think there were some valid concerns raised by abutters. I can understand them, but I don't think they were sufficient merit to demonstrate that this is an inappropriate use of the land. So I'm going to say there's no valid objection.
I'll say the opposite. I'll say that there are valid objections that hopefully when we get to the point of making a proposal on what should be some of the requirements, that will cover them. But I am going to say that there are valid objections. I value what you said.
Once again, I explained this once before. I agree with Tim that there's no valid objection based on demonstrable fact. Only what they think could be, but not on demonstrable fact.
I agree. There is no valid objection from the abutters based on demonstrable fact, and we appreciate everybody's opinion, whether you're for or against. That's not the point. It's all based on the facts.
That's right.
That before us. So it's kind of worded, misconstrued to say that's either a valid objection or it's not a valid objection. Everybody who came to speak ahead for or against certainly a valid, but I believe that based on demonstrable fact, there's no objection.
I believe also that there were valid objections from some of the abutters that are concerning, but they're not based on, it's more conjecture on their part, not based on demonstrable facts. So I conclude with Tim that there is no valid objection based on that.
Is it an opportunity to qualify my vote on that? I would like to go back and qualify the vote and how I stated it. I believe there were valid objections from abutters based on demonstrable fact. It may not have come out of your mouth, but it was definitely in the letter that you sent. And some of these things I believe are fact and data driven. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm sorry, but thank you for allowing me that.
Yep.
Nuisance?
Yeah, that's you.
That's me. There is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including location and design of access ways and off-street parking. And I think we'll even further qualify that when we get into requirements.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. The architectural plans show everything that needs to be done by the state and local authorities, that everything would be in a proper operation of the proposed structure.
I agree.
Based on what the applicant has said they are going to do in terms of adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities, I believe it will ensure the proper operation, provided that, you know, they get the approval from the state and the town.
I agree.
Agreed.
Sewage, there is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water. There's no question in regards to the amount of area, certainly wetlands. And the points being made by one of the abutters, the applicant has clearly described, actually noted the engineering firm that's going to be involved with this, and they will abide by all rules and regulations as far as proper sanitary sewage.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agree as well.
Intent, the proposed use and or structure, I believe, is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan, provided that the applicant does what he says he's going to do and use it for appropriate lodging for employees. The intent of the master plan was to make sure that areas like this were kept rural, clean, neat, and appropriate. It would be a shame if it was used otherwise.
I agree. I think the applicant made some interesting references to the master plan, and well taken.
So I agree that the master plan does call for finding additional housing that's affordable for folks that'll be working in town or to support the businesses in town. I do agree that the master plan would probably classify this as zone appropriate. Although that's unclear because the master plan is a little loose on certain things, but that's my opinion. I do agree with where Frank was going with it too. The master plan talks about protecting the rural nature of the rural areas, and this is lakeside residential, which is, I think, partially, it's expected to be rural. To some extent, one house on a 19-acre lot that you probably can't see very much of from the water is probably okay. The last thing I was going to say was the master plan calls for, very specifically, protecting the view from the water. And you guys convinced me, right, wrong, or indifferent, that we probably won't see much of it. So with that case, I said too much. I know we're getting late, but is consistent.
And I agree that it is consistent with the master plan and the ordinance for the same reasons. And I think it's complementing the area and staying with the continuance of the look of the neighborhood.
I agree.
Okay, so then in summary, under acceptance, which was the plat, we were all in agreement that the plat was submitted. Appropriateness, we all agree that it is an appropriate site. That's 5 positives. On impacting the value, it was 1 saying it would, 4 saying it would not. On the abutters with valid objections, it was 2 thinking there were valid objections and 3 thinking there weren't. On there being an undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrians, none of us thought there would be, so 5. On the facilities, we think there will be adequate, 5. Sewage is adequate, 5. And the intent is consistent with the master plan, 5. So would anybody like to make a motion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that for case Z25-16.
Excuse me, before we're gonna do it, are we gonna put any conditions on it?
Yeah, what conditions would you like?
I'm asking the
Oh,
question.
okay.
Are we gonna
I
put,
think we should.
I think there needs to be some, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to consider some appropriate conditions. If we're going to approve it.
I think one of them, if I may add, should this be approved, that it also follows the covenants of the area of the property. Like we had spoke about before, that the approval of the covenants. I don't know if we can go there. Should we go there with
I
that or
don't think
not?
we can go there.
The covenants are listed in the deed, by the way, in the packages we have.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I retract
Paul,
that.
I don't think we can go there because it's not in our jurisdiction. Okay, in terms of the,
The only reason I'm doing that is because we have in the past.
have we?
We have. And I will use an example of the Christian Conference Center, where we were very concerned with the covenants of what they approve with their ordinance of their own property. So we made that a condition. But we don't have to. I mean,
No,
that was on that property, and it's a separate and different situation.
Well, if they're there, they're there. If you want to add, let's add that. Let's add that it must abide by the covenants that are in the deed.
It's something I have to follow. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't see where it hurts.
Your jurisdiction, but
And that would also take care of some of the concerns of the abutters.
I think it's moved too.
I'm not sure it took care of all the concerns of the.
No, not all
abutters.
concerns, but it takes care of a lot of the concerns.
I think if you read through it, you'll see it's more about, you can't have an above ground pool. You have to take care of your trash. It's that type of stuff.
But it also covers area of exactly what they're allowed to have for equipment, things in the yard.
I will say, from my opinion, restrictions based on this special exemption should be considered and not things that are above and beyond what other property owners can do or not do. I get it, like no one wants to see, trash in the neighbor's yard. I don't think my clients are going to either, but to restrict that, I think it goes above and beyond what that special exemption is.
But also please understand that if you look in the zoning ordinance book, for rural, this is allowed. For the three other categories, this is allowed. For this zone, it's not allowed without special exception. Right? And that's why we're here trying to cover.
Okay.
But thank you for that. I think there should be some other requirements. I think we should limit the number of people that are going to be allowed to live in this at any one time to 3 or 3 couples or less. So I'm guessing you'd prefer the 6.
I would be fine with that wording.
Okay.
So would you be comfortable with us putting conditions, as the chairman just said, of limiting it to 3 couples or 6 people, I guess,
You just said fine, so don't change.
Yeah.
We heard you say fine.
But I think we.
I would get away from the term couples, just
Yeah.
from a legality standpoint.
6 or less.
Yeah.
Not here to rewrite rule. We have to go by the ordinance. And so we had this come up once before, and we wanted to specify a number of vehicles on a property. Can't do that. Now, he testified on record as far as what their use is gonna be. It's gonna be a lodging house per the only definitions that they could use as they talked with Norma. This is, what can we use here that applies? And it's a lodging house. So the only condition I was gonna propose is that they follow the use of a lodging house.
Can I make a recommendation? Just trying to work with you guys. Rather than maybe limit it to people, because you do have that limit in there. Maybe you can limit to domiciles, right? I'm kind of defining it code wise, if there's 3 domiciles, units, whatever you want to call it. And maybe I can't expand beyond those 3 with this approval.
Right.
Right, and then that kind of solves it because you already have a limit on the amount of people. I'm not going beyond those 3 domicile units.
And just in response. Oh, go ahead.
Thanks. I would just propose that you follow your ordinance and
Yeah.
and just limit it to the language of the ordinance.
We don't need to worry about domicile. We don't need, the ordinance says 10 or less. We've showed you a plan. You know what the plan is, but we'll follow your ordinance. And that's our obligation to you.
So here's why I would challenge you on that, is that it sounded like, for these two, there was a terrific struggle in trying to define, and you admitted that, trying to define what this is. So we thought the best it could be was lodging house. I look at it and I say, hey, I think you could have called this a multifamily.
But that's not the application we brought forward.
But it is. You're looking for a place to house people at lower expense. You control the expense, you control the building.
But respectfully, that's not the application we brought forward. We brought forward an application for a lodging house, which is what Ms. Dietrich and we worked together to come up with. So,
Well, let me throw another one at you then.
okay.
On probably 50% plus of the applications that are approved by this board, there are restrictions put onto them. And again, I don't know that number for fact, so please don't hold me to it. It might be 40, it might be 28, it might be 90. But we've put restrictions on plenty of other things that we've approved. And remember, the reason we're here is not because it's an automatic go. If it was, it would be written in the thing. It's an automatic go for Lakeside zone. It's not. It requires this. And if restrictions are put on this, that's really.
Sure. And again, what we've done tonight is we've come before you with a plan. The plan shows what it is. You're approving that plan. That's what you're approving. And you're approving that plan as a lodging house. And so we have to meet the 7 and 5 criteria in the
Correct.
ordinance that I talked about, which you just run through.
Mhm.
We've met them. And therefore you're approving us as a lodging house pursuant to that plan. You're approving that plan.
And that's how we should.
And
make
that's
the
how we
condition.
should.
And
lodging house is a restriction
We- When you
To
make the,
10 residents.
when you make the proposal, let's,
Stick with the plan.
let's, a lodging house specified by what the
That design.
applicant did with this plan. Yes,
With
Fine.
with
So-
that design.
so-
You're approving that plan.
we're approving this plan.
And the max in that plan is 3 apartments.
Yes.
That's,
Yeah.
That's what it
So
shows.
you would
That's
agree
what
that
it
that's what
shows.
we're
That's
approving?
what it shows.
Yeah. That's what they're asking.
Please, is that, you would agree that that's what
We're approving that plan.
please say it to me. We're approving a house with 3 apartments in it. That's what you're saying.
The definition of apartments kind of gray. And I'm
Yeah.
not.
But you're approving a lodging
Right?
house with
Yeah, it's more than 30 days, less than a year.
3. Okay, so we're really just approving the lodging house is what you're saying. We're not.
That's what I'm saying.
We're not really
That's-
approving.
I've been
Frank, we're not
consistent.
approving that plan specifically.
We're approving a lodging facility.
But that
with
is
that
lodging.
specific plan.
To that,
What they
With
testify.
that
this is
specific
what they're
plan.
asking for.
If-
They're not asking for anything else.
If that plan were different, right,
Mhm.
then we may not even meet your criteria. So
Right.
that's the plan.
That is the plan that you're presenting to
That's
us
the
tonight.
plan presenting to you for approval.
Okay, so there'll be, then the restriction of, we're gonna abide by the covenants probably doesn't matter, that's it's on the deed.
That's agreed.
Yeah, can I just speak to
Restriction.
that for a minute? Like you, that's
Yeah.
outside your jurisdiction. You can't-
Exactly.
You can't do that.
Totally out.
And the restriction of 6 or less is in the domicile, it's gotta go away as well, you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Even though we've done restrictions like that on other cases, but
We
okay.
have.
The restriction to not be able to sell this and change it. But I mean, it is, that goes away too, because we are gonna sell this with the right to have a lodging house on it if we agree to this. Which I think to some extent we've had. So my argument to put restrictions on it is gonna be battled strongly by all 4. I'll stop. I will stop and I'll stop battling, but I appreciate it.
Restrictions regarding equipment, outdoors.
It's
I mentioned that earlier, but
whatever your zoning ordinance permits is what we're bound by. That's it.
But it's not what we're bound. Because the zoning ordinance, it calls for going in front of this board to get a special exception that allows us to put specific restrictions on.
I take your point, but here's the thing, right? This is essentially a 3-bedroom house on a 19-acre lot. with three,
Yes,
right? 3 bedrooms.
we understand that.
That's what it is. And a garage for an RV and the landscaping equipment used to maintain the estate across the street. That's what it is. And that shouldn't concern you because there's nothing about that that is in violation of the ordinance or any other concern that any abutter would reasonably have because, you know,
But sir, you were here. You heard the concerns. from the
I understand that
And they're valid.
there's fear about that because there's uncertainty as to what this is. We heard things about mechanics and garages and that's not what this is. It's not, there's nothing about mechanics and garages and servicing equipment and all. It's equipment to service the estate across the street. That's it. That's
So
all
there
it
should
is.
be no concern in putting restrictions to limit it to just that.
That's what it is.
Agreed, agreed. So having restrictions that limit it to that, just that, because
But how would you even word that? I mean, what,
Well,
that
a
it's
couple
not
of
going to
them
be a
would be-
service garage? I mean, it's not, if it was a service garage, it's going to violate your ordinance.
Well, a couple of them would be, 6 or less in the domicile,
That-
because that's
that-
what you're proposing.
That doesn't come under a lodging.
You're approving a lodging house pursuant to that plan.
With restrictions, were this board to want to. But let's leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Even if I come out with those, it sounds like I'm opposed by enough folks that it wouldn't go through anyhow. Please. So.
What would your mother then do? Bring it back to this group to complain?
You'd complain to the code enforcement officer and the code enforcement officer would go out to the site and investigate. If there were a problem, the code enforcement officer would serve the owner with a violation.
After the fact. I mean, where we're at with this is we closed the discussion to the public. This is gonna wind up being resolved the way it gets resolved, right?
Can
And
I,
if we agree,
there's a motion on the table.
Yeah.
And we're not open at this time for public input. So at this particular, the deliberation is over and we're actually, this gentleman here it was starting to propose his,
fair enough.
okay?
and we were talking requirements, but we're gonna pass on that. Somebody's gonna make a motion.
So Tom was making a motion. I think you should continue.
I'd like to make a motion for a special exception for KC 2516. Requested for Article 400, Section 401D28 to permit a lodging house in the Lakeshore Residential District.
I'd like to ask that we qualify that with certain restrictions. Go ahead, tell me if you're opposed.
Go ahead.
Please. Are you opposed?
I don't know what the restrictions are.
My restrictions would be a requirement that the building house 6 or less people. A requirement that it cannot be sold and changed to something larger. A requirement that the maintenance be limited to, as you had stated earlier, to services, oil change or less. That's kind of how you stated it. I'm just using your words.
It is, I just, from my client standpoint, I wouldn't want to limit it to something that no one else could do. I mean, theoretically.
Understood, but let's play this through.
Okay.
Tom, if you're not good with that, just tell me.
Yeah, I'm not good with that. Maybe somebody else.
Fair enough. You made the motion. You made the motion, I guess.
I think
Fair enough.
I as well. I'm just. We can't enforce it. It's not right. Okay, Mark, I know what you're trying to do.
I'm sure you don't, Frank, but
Unnecessary.
No, I know what you're trying to accomplish, but we don't really have, I think we have to
Well,
stick.
we do have some authorities. We do have some authorities as a board to put on conditions.
Condition.
I'm sorry. if I-
have in the
call them
past.
Conditions.
We're calling it something else. This board has the authority and always has and always will to add conditions above and beyond the ordinance as it sees fit.
Okay.
That's all. And that's all I was saying earlier about the the ordinance of the association or of the property. That's all I was saying, because we've done it in the past. And it's perfectly within our legal limits and rights to be able to impose a condition. And that condition, I was suggesting that it follows the guidelines of the ordinance of the, what do you call it? The covenants of the property, just like we have in the past with other properties, to make sure that it's in their guidelines. And that only protects them.
So Tom, you made a motion. I asked the question, you said no to it. Okay, I understand. Paul just asked, would you like to add his, not requirements, I'm sorry.
The covenants.
The covenants.
The covenants, because we have, as this board is legally.
Your motion. It's really.
Just add it to your motion.
Relative to that motion. You want to add that?
And then
to your
that's it.
No,
Okay,
I
fair
don't
enough.
think it has any bearing in this case. Those covenants are written into a warranty deed that are above and beyond our jurisdiction. They have to follow the law. We're not here to be the policeman of covenants. We have put conditions on people. For instance, somebody wants to have a bunkhouse. We've said, make sure that you're gonna have a bunkhouse.
Yes.
So you're gonna follow this with the conditions. There will not be someone permanently living there. Yes, abide by that, because they're abiding by the ordinance that we have. All we're
Correct.
saying here is you need to abide by the conditions of a lodging house, which are detailed. We can't add to that or take away from that. In past, we have said, yes, we'll approve this with the condition
Yes, we
that
have.
you get approval from DES with approval for a proper septic. Of course.
That's all
They
I'm
have to
saying.
go for those permits anyways. So it's,
How much square footage is there?
I think the footprint's 70 by 80, so it's about 2,800 square feet on the first floor.
I'm sorry,
2,800 square feet, I think, right now.
What was the requirement? 30
so
something?
in the
The
covenant,
requirement's larger.
in the covenants,
We're aware.
We were
in the covenant, it says
minimum.
all buildings erected and constructed for residential purposes on any lot shall contain a minimum of 3,500 square feet. The method of calculating the area of proposed buildings and structures shall be multiplied by the outside horizontal dimensions.
It's none of our business.
You're right.
That's right. It's in the deed. Appreciated and noted. Tom made a motion.
Yeah.
I suggest.
I'm gonna second Tom's
Thank
motion
you.
is made.
Thank you.
That's
I
all we
was-
need to go. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. The motion passes. Frank, I didn't hear your vote on it. Are you? Yeah, aye. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you very
On the
much.
first one.
Thank
Let's move on quickly to the second one. Again, we're on case C25-16. A special exception is requested for Article 300, Section 328B, to permit a tower, then in parentheses, ornamental tower, to extend above the 35-foot maximum height restriction. Gentlemen, you mentioned this before, but if you'd like to add anything, now's the time.
No, nothing to add.
Board, any questions?
No.
We've seen it.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you gave us. Appreciate it very, very much. We're gonna open up the tower over the 35 feet to public input. Again, to sort of keep this in order. Anybody in favor would like to speak, please come up. Seeing none, we'll go to anybody opposed. If you would state your name, thank you.
Just real quickly, again, Tom Dryer from 126 Clay Point Road. One of the questions that was asked earlier, can't prove either way, but will it be seen from the water on the Hopewell side? And I would propose, depending how much they clear, how tall the spire is, the answer is going to be yes. I would consider that a negative. That's for the both of the ordinance against that or not, but I think that's just a clarification.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close it to public input. Anything else from the applicants?
Nothing further.
Anything else from the board? Let's work our way through the spreadsheet.
Plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B. Yes.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Appropriateness, the specific site is an appropriate location for the use.
I agree.
I agree.
I disagree, based on the fact that I believe that the spire is too high and would be viewed from the water, and it goes against our master plan.
I agree the specific site is appropriate.
Okay.
Value, factual evidence.
I think it's, isn't it?
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
did I miss something?
No. I'm falling asleep.
Where the hell was, here I am. Okay. Value, factual evidence has not found that property values in the district would be reduced to the incompatible land uses. I just don't think any value is gonna be lost in the district. for the-
Appropriateness, where are we on value?
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree as well. I agree.
There's no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. There was some speculation about its visibility and from where, but nothing demonstrable in the way of a solid objection.
On this one, I'll agree with Tim, for the reasons he stated, that there really was no valid objection, at least not that I read, when it was submitted.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic because of this.
I agree. Agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. Agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Sewage, there is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
The proposed use of the structure is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan. Even though it's up higher, I don't think it's gonna concern anyone in my opinion. It will not be able to be seen by any of the abutters or the people that are on the lake.
I agree. I think it makes an attractive, building and is consistent with the plan.
I believe the building is attractive and your spire is nice. But in terms of how it relates to the master plan, I believe it's not consistent with the master plan, because the master plan very specifically says to protect the view from the water. And I know that if we're sitting out in the water next to Rattlesnake, you'll be able to see it. But with that said, I'm 1 against 4.
And I believe the proposed structure is in line with the spirit of the ordinance and in the master plan.
I agree.
So with that said, for acceptance about the plat, we're all in favor that it was. For the appropriateness of the location, it was 1 to 4. 4 believing it was. Under value, there were 5 feeling it was not found to impact property values. Under abutters, I believe it was 5, that there was no valid objections. Under nuisance, it was 5, that there was no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian vehicular traffic. Under facilities, it's 5. Adequate facilities would be there. Under sewage, there's adequate area, was 5. And under the intent relative to the master plan, it was 1 to 4. 4 being that it was in consistency, the master plan. Gentlemen, we need to get a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve case Z 25-16 for special exception for Article 300, Section D, to permit a structure over the 35-foot height restriction.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you so much. And thanks to Ms. Dietrich as well for work on that.
Thanks for your visit.
Thank
to
you.
the den.
Thank you. That was very well done. Good. Thank you.
You didn't say 328D. You said 300D.
Oh, I didn't.
You said Article 300.
I did.
Section
I did.
300D.
I said 300 section D.
Said, section 300D.
I said it backwards
You just didn't put the 28 there.
because it's not there. Article 300 section. Section D.
We don't do the next.
No, we're after that.
You could make.
Doesn't say it. Nope.
That one does.
Doesn't say it on mine.
All right, if you could, we can get quiet. If you're having a discussion, if you wouldn't mind moving it out, we're getting late here. We're now at 20 to 11. Our rules are basically that at this point, we're not allowed to. But I'm open to having discussion amongst the board of where we go from here. Thoughts? Anyone on the board?
Can we just clarify that? Do we need to clarify the last motion? Even though
You want me to quit?
even though your form didn't say that,
Okay, Article 300 section.
it's right here. It's right on
I didn't
there,
have it on
under
mine.
number 2.
It's not written on mine.
Yeah, I just noticed it.
Under 328D.
Yep. That's the height.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna specify my motion again. To approve case Z 25-16. For special exception. For Article 300. Section 328D. To permit a tower. Ornamental tower to extend above the 35-foot maximum height restriction.
Do we need
We need a second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Next item, just for the board, please, is, we had set long ago, and it's been in practice for the whole time I've been around, a 10 o'clock or earlier starting time for the case. We're now sitting at 10:40. And we're looking at one more case plus other business. Still have other business. We still have other business, that's right. Let's keep the discussion from the board. Is there discussion amongst the board? If not, what I'm gonna do is advise the public that we're going to move the rest of the cases and the rest of our business out till future. But please.
I think it's probably a good idea to continue. Our discussions are starting to deteriorate a little bit, and this would be a good time to make a few stupid decisions.
It's time. It's
And
time.
I
to
would
quit.
lead the stupidity.
Anyone else? Then I apologize to everyone for staying here so long. We're gonna move the discussion on KC 2517 as well as the rest of our business to,
Continue.
we're gonna continue it to,
May 1st.
do we need a motion to do that or are we good?
I think if you just state the next date, you're good.
May 1st. Thank you all for coming. I apologize. Say again.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it will be. May 1st. Yes. Okay. Thank you. You know. the
Nobody
case needs
wants to
people getting handled in July. It was, this last, no, very last case we're supposed to hear. We took care of this in July. There might have been one person there. Yes. No. Yes. Because they had to reopen it. Now you can see it, the crowd. Thank you. I think we did the right thing, but oh, like wait.
Well, for these people, it's like a chance to talk with you.
Right, would be here well past midnight.